Welcome to the Luxury Meats Podcast, the Beverage Superstars Part 2 episode. In today's mega podcast with 6 founder interviews, we'll be talking about the THC-beverage phenomenon that's taking the world by storm with the man behind Snoop, Dogg's and Wayne Coyne of the Flaming Lips beverage brands, 3 women drink brand founders, the top retailer in the space, as well as a new alcohol brand born and bred in NYC. And if that's not enough, our first ever recipe demo. Stay tuned. But first, I wanted to thank our presenting sponsor for this very special episode, Happy. Happy is an all-natural hemp-derived THC-infused seltzer brand with stunningly good flavors such as blood orange ginger, raspberry honeysuckle, lime wild mint, and mango sweet basil. Bustle recently referred to Happy as, quote, the women-led hemp beverage brand that's changing happy hour, end quote. I've personally tried this brand, and honestly, if this was just a seltzer, it would have been the best I've ever had. Truly, and that's not even taking into account the THC and lion's mane they include in Glow, their product as well. It's also low dose, made with real fruit juice and no alcohol, of course, so it's just a completely relaxing yet in control, delicious experience. To find your happy, visit happyhourdrink.com. That's HAPPI hourdrink.com and enter code LMCC25 for a 25% discount. You can also get Happy at these fine stores, in-person Binny's in Chicago, Top 10 Liquors in Minnesota, and both Total Wine and Fresh Time stores across multiple states. Once again, for more info, go to happyhourdrink.com. That's HAPPI hourdrink.com. I also wanted to thank our other lead sponsor for today's episode, Klaus. Klaus is a ready-to-drink infused cocktails brand by the legendary famed master mixologist Warren Bobrow. Klaus is a true artisanal functional cannabis beverage. Bobrow, a celebrity in cannabis beverage circles, literally and figuratively wrote the book on cannabis cocktails. In fact, way back in 2015, he published the popular book, Cannabis, Cocktails, Mocktails, and Tonics. He brings his deep, award-winning expertise to his brand Klaus, crafting beyond delicious beverages with the best ingredients. Here's just a sampling of some of Klaus's incredible flavor notes: spicy ginger, zesty lime puree, dollops of piquant mirin vinegar, the finest fruit extracts, and so many others. And lucky for us, Klaus has created a special promo just for our listeners. Visit drinkklaus.com/luxury. That's drinkklaus.com/luxury and use code LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout. Once again, use LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout when you visit drinkklaus.com/luxury. Hi there. Welcome to the Luxury Meats Podcast, a new kind of business podcast where we take you around the world to interview global leaders and get into their personal stories about chasing excellence across health, wellness, beauty, travel, sport, hospitality, culinary, beverage, retail, cannabis, design, and so much more. I'm your host, Jed Wexler, founder and CEO of LMCC. Oh, we're almost to the episode, I promise. I just wanted to share a quick beverage trend alert brought to you by Bee's Knees Wellness. It's a beverage format and product everyone is talking about and retailers are raving too. Bee's Knees Wellness is a community-focused brand with a full line of natural, holistic, hemp-derived products created to empower you to feel better, sleep better, and live better. And they've just launched something new, introducing their Beezy Snap, a healthier, happier, vegan, and hangover-free way to sip and socialize. Here's how it works. You bend it, you break it, you snap open the small packet, and then you blend it. You release the contents into your beverage of choice and stir for an instant wellness boost. Beezy Snaps are designed with portability, customization, and fun in mind. It's a discreet, alcohol-free way to boost any beverage without the calories, cans, or hangover. Visit beesknees-wellness.com and enter code LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout. Once again, that's beesknees-wellness.com and enter code LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout. And now I invite you to settle into episode 9 of the Luxury Meats podcast, Beverage Superstars Part 2. If you have a long drive, lots of house cleaning, a long walk, a wellness hike, this one is for you. I cannot wait to get to interview number 1 with Diana Eberlein, chair of the Coalition for Adult Beverage Alternatives and the Chief External Affairs Officer at Vertosa. Enjoy. It is my pleasure to welcome Diana Eberlein to the Luxury Meats podcast to kick off our Beverage Superstars Part 2 episode. Diana is chair of the Coalition for Adult Beverage Alternatives and recently was named Chief External Affairs Officer at Vertosa, a firm that creates industry-leading active ingredients for THC-infused product makers. She also just might know more than anyone about this rapidly exploding THC beverage market, its key players, trends, and of course, the regulatory landscape. Diana, I'm so grateful you're with us to give us a snapshot into what looks to be really a once-in-a-generation phenomenon. Welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I look forward to talking with you. It's been a long time in the making.
Yes. So what do you do? Can you explain your role
Sure.
or roles at both of these entities and your mission?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've really become more of an advocate and educator in this category. I entered the cannabis beverage space as a marketer, and I am still a marketer at my core. But I've really kind of taken on a role of advocacy and education for this emerging category. So my role as Chief External Affairs Officer over at Vertosa is really to represent the industry at large, handle a lot of the education and advocacy work as these larger players from the adult beverage world enter this space. They have lots of questions. This is not, they are very used to the rest of adult beverage. This is a new emerging category. They're not used to a new category coming in the way this one has. So I answer a lot of questions for them and everything from seed to shelf, where we want to see our products positioned, how they're being made, understanding the food science behind it so that they understand that are quality specifications and testing standards already being implemented, whether it's in the adult rec or in the hemp space. And sometimes that's self-regulation based on what we're seeing in state to state. So we do a lot of education on that front so that we can continue building stronger relationships with the adult beverage world, which is the sandbox we're looking to play in many ways. And then at the Coalition for Adult Beverage Alternatives, that was created last summer after the Mary Miller Amendment hit and there was ban language entered into the Farm Bill, which for those who aren't as familiar, the Farm Bill and the definition of hemp with the up to 0.3% of THC essentially being legalized as a derivative of hemp is what created this opportunity for low-dose THC beverages in particular to be sold outside of the dispensary channel. That ban language going back into the next version of the Farm Bill could potentially wipe out the entire intoxicating hemp industry as we know it today, including beverages. Beverages, I feel, take the biggest hit if something like that were to happen. And that's because low-dose beverage was only 0.3% of the adult rec market because low-dose THC beverage, these sessionable drinks, tend to appeal to the soccer mom who might not necessarily identify as a cannabis consumer and not going to a dispensary. So this created an opportunity for us to prove the demand for this low-dose THC category and therefore create regulation and propose regulation for a low-dose pathway that is outside of the dispensary channel.
So how do you define adult beverage or adult rec beverage for our listeners who may not be so immersed in the industry?
So when I say adult beverage, we're kind of talking generalized intoxicating beverages. So alcohol, that might also be other active ingredients that we're starting to see more of. We represent cannabinoid infused beverages. So when you hear of kava and what we're advocating for, we are generally talking about low dose THC beverages, but there are other cannabinoids and other functional ingredients being added to those beverages that we might be working with in the future as well.
Got it. And so what's so incredible to me is that the global THC beverage market size in just last year was about just over 2 billion in the US. And this is projected to grow significantly, potentially reaching 117 billion, which is huge by 2032, driven by this increasing consumer demand and hopefully this cannabis legalization, which is why this ban kind of bubbling back up is also quite interesting. For the non-cannabis person, can you give our listeners like the bigger kind of cultural meets business snapshot of the category? Why is this so important? Where are we?
This category in particular is interesting because it is a very familiar consumption method to, I think, all adults in terms of how you would consume either functional or intoxicating products. Everyone's familiar with alcohol. Even if you don't drink it, everyone knows where it can be bought, how it's sold, what the active ingredient is. It's very familiar. So when you start talking about another intoxicating beverage, you do obviously get questions about the active ingredient and how it might be different than alcohol. But in terms of how it could be regulated, how it could be sold, and how it's ingested is very familiar to the everyday consumer, if you will. So I think that's what makes this such a particularly interesting category, is because it can really normalize cannabis as a whole, not just THC beverage.
Now, are women consumers leading this demand and consumption? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I will say, I think there is a very broad mix, but I think traditionally, even with gender roles evolving as time has changed, women have traditionally been the ones who control the credit card for the household. They're also the ones that typically do a little bit more deep diving into what they're ingesting into their body from a health and wellness standpoint. In a post-COVID world where we have a lot more people paying attention to the ingredients and the products that they're putting into their body, we have a more critical audience than ever before. So transparency is really key. But we are seeing a lot of women, jumping on the bandwagon here. But I do think that there's also an opportunity, for the male consumer to be represented as well. There are certainly products that are definitely geared more towards the male consumer than others, but females are really driving this. We've seen a huge spike in consumption from the 30 to 45-year-old female, but also boomers, 60 to 80 females as well, who are adding this to their adult beverage routine.
Now, where are they all finding it? What's the preference? Is this living and going to live near alcohol and wine at liquor stores? Is it going to be at grocers? Is it going to be at bar and restaurants? I know you have a lot of channels on your regulatory plate right now. What are you seeing there?
We've always looked to have these products available anywhere where other adult beverages where age gating is standard to be sold and served. So that's bars, restaurants, that's grocery. In some states that might be convenience. It really varies state by state, but if alcohol is sold there, we believe that our products should also be able to be sold there as well. We are seeing, obviously, liquor being, and if you're looking at any of the state regulation that's coming out, liquor seems to be the channel that regulators and legislators are most comfortable with. And the main reason for that is because you have to be 21 to buy a Diet Coke in one of those shops. So you're automatically mitigating that fear that they have about kids getting access to these products, while we're obviously advocating for these products to be sold 21 plus and being sold alongside other adult products. It's easier for a regulator or legislator who's just opening up, and a market who's just opening up to intoxicating cannabinoid products, to feel more comfortable starting with liquor. And we look at that as a really nice foot in the door for us to make a good first impression.
And so that's the real opportunity. I noticed you didn't mention dispensary, because that seems just like this regulated channel already. Can you speak to that a little bit?
We actually very much support the dispensary channel as well. Our stance at Kava has always been that we are agnostic to the source of the THC. Our pathways and the regulatory frameworks that we build out are based on dosage. So right now we have a very new consumer getting familiar with sometimes cannabis or THC as a whole that they're getting familiar with. And then on top of that, they're being introduced to THC in beverage, which wasn't the thing that you were getting when you were in college, getting something from down the street, from your guy. Beverage isn't oftentimes a top 5 category that comes to mind when you hear of hemp or cannabis, particularly if you're talking about regulation. Now it is, but it's in a different light. So what we advocate for is anything up to 10 milligrams per serving or 100 milligrams per package, meaning 4-packs, 6-packs, or multi-serving spirits like 750 milliliter bottles. For that to be available outside of the dispensary channel in age-gated facilities where alcohol or other adult beverages are being sold. Anything higher than that, we believe should remain in the dispensary channel where that product will actually sell and continues to grow within the existing marketplace.
Interesting. Now, are sensible, thoughtful regulations really the only holdup to this full mainstream adoption? And or are you adding education layered on top of that so the consumer can navigate this new category? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, education is leading that. Obviously, there's regulatory parameters that we make and recommend. We have a full code of conduct that outlines everything from where these products should be sold to what the label warning should look like and things that should be included, including certificates of analysis available via QR code. But when we're talking about education, we need to set the expectations for the consumer. I think a lot of consumers were confused about CBD beverage and what they were supposed to feel or experience when that started hitting mainstream markets. I think what that really showed is in that case, people want to feel something. Homeostasis and feeling good isn't necessarily enough for a consumer. And I think there were a lot of reasons why the CBD beverage space on its own didn't really have the success that it was projected to. But there's obviously clear demand for THC beverage right now. But there is a lot of education that comes with it. For example, we send kids off to college all the time to learn their tolerance, when it comes to alcohol. And it's kind of a good luck. It might be painful, might be some trial and error.
Figure it out.
We are coming out of prohibition. We have to build trust. So we don't have that flexibility of people just being able to try product kind of willy-nilly. We don't necessarily advocate for high-dose products to be super accessible because there is a huge difference between a 5 or 10 milligram drink and a 50. And the spectrum of tolerance is much wider for consumers with THC and cannabis than it is for alcohol. You can kind of predict how much alcohol will have someone impaired. THC is very different. I'm a low dose consumer. I drink those 2.5 and 3 milligram drinks. And at most, I'm consuming 15 milligrams per drinking occasion, if you will. And after that 15, I'm going to bed. There are people that can consume 100 milligrams just to function, and they don't consider themselves a medicinal patient. So there isn't enough data just yet to really understand consumers and their tolerance. And as a result, we're left with a little bit of gray area, which frankly, regulators and legislators don't like to have. They want to understand all of the things before they put regulation in place. But I think what we really need more than anything is to really understand how the consumers are consuming these products, whether it's on the high dose end from the dispensary channel or the low dose beverages that they're getting at the liquor store or grocery store available next to their wine. Basing the regulation around how consumers are actually utilizing these products is going to be key to eliminating and reducing the risk that is created by the illicit market.
Because it sounds like it's no longer conjecture. There's a lot of data now thanks to this emerging category. And just to touch on the legislations that I know you're on Capitol Hill a lot these days. As of today or yesterday, there's something called SB3 on the governor of Texas's quote desk that a lot of people are talking about. I know we're going to go deep nerd out on the legislation piece. So what is that?
Yeah. So SB3 is a ban bill essentially that was proposed by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick in Texas. This was proposed earlier during session, and there's been a lot of back and forth between the Senate and the House trying to determine how to regulate these products. A majority of the consumers in Texas are asking for regulation versus a ban. I think a lot of people know that bans don't work. There's a reason that prohibition wasn't effective with alcohol, and there's a reason why we started seeing legalization of cannabis as a whole. And it's because the demand was there and the illicit market was supplying that. And the only way to protect the consumer is really to regulate these products. Currently, SB3 it did pass the House and the Senate. Politicians doing political things. There was a public safety, or I should say public education bill, HB2, that was used as a negotiation tool for SB3 to be passed. It's a lot easier I understand where legislators are, right? They want to get public education pushed across, so they're willing to negotiate. And a lot of that was based on, okay, we're going to improve upon the TCUP bill, which is the Texas Compassionate Use Program bill, which is essentially their medical channel, oftentimes used to support veterans. That that bill, while improved upon over this last session, still caps dosage at 20 milligrams per serving. I think if you look at any of the legacy markets in terms of what would be considered medicinal or what vets are using, that's not nearly enough typically. And there's been a lot of pushback from the veteran groups on this ban, requesting a veto from Governor Abbott. What's unique about Texas is that once a bill hits the governor's desk, some states, if the bill is left unsigned, it expires and does not go into law. In Texas, if he does not actively veto it, even if he doesn't sign it, it would get put into law. So essentially not signing it is a neutral response, but it basically shows, hey, I might not agree with it, but if it's not signed, it shows that he is supporting what the Senate and the House have proposed. He has to actively veto this bill, which sometimes can have other political ramifications when that happens. So, politics will politic, if you will. But I do feel cautiously optimistic that we have a chance at a veto because there are just lots of groups unifying on the hemp side and supporting regulation of these categories. And I do believe at the end of the day, we have a real life case study in California. You can still very much find those high dose synthetic products in California where you have a current ban at the smoke shops, head shops, and independent retailers. So, I'm optimistic that they will choose to veto this and hopefully move forward with coming up with regulation that really does end up protecting the consumer and getting veterans and other medicinal patients what they need.
No, I appreciate that answer. It sounds like that's where the work is right now. So let's take a step back into your career a little bit. You've had a long career in the beverage industry. You've held key roles in beverage and cannabis beverage specifically. Even in your LinkedIn profile pic, you're even wearing a necklace with one of those pop tabs that break off, or you can break off. Oh, you're wearing it now. Great. What is it about Bevs for you? Is it this, how it brings us together? Is it wellness? There's something, where is that passion coming from?
It's a combination of this for me. Beverage is the only way I consume cannabis. It was the only way I could control my dose. And, this is going back about 10 years ago when I first moved to Seattle, Washington. I call myself a recovering DARE baby. I had gone through the DARE program growing up. They teach you kind of, it's the gateway drug. You're going to start with cannabis and you're going to be on heroin the next day. Well, that's not how this works. Basically, when I got to Seattle, which was one of the first legal markets, I looked around and everyone I knew, doctors, lawyers, business professionals, teachers, were consuming cannabis for various reasons. And I thought there must be something to this. Like if it's improving their lives, particularly doctors and teachers who are, carving the youth, the future of youth here, I thought there's got to be something to this. I tried a lot of products and I went to a dispensary and candidly, I didn't know what questions to ask. I got lucky that someone turned me on to beverage. I call it there was a lot of trial and error and mostly error on my part in terms of what the experience was. Because when I went in, a lot of the focus at that time, it's gotten better now, but a lot of the focus at that time was the most THC that you could pack in one punch. Now I know I am a low dose consumer. What was happening when I was having those high dose products is it was spiking my anxiety
because it was too high,
which was the opposite effect of what I was trying to achieve because I was too high. And anyone who's been in that situation knows that you assume everyone else knows that you're internally freaking out. They can't tell, but you feel differently about that. And it's not a good feeling. I'm a human guinea pig. I wanted to try all of the things and I wanted to understand how this could potentially work for me. And I got lucky one day and a bud tender turned me on to a drink mix that just blended so nicely into my everyday life. It looked like creamer, so I could add it to my coffee to get rid of those early morning jitters that made me second guess every 2-sentence email I was sending. And it also allowed for me to, implement this into my social life. What was interesting was many of my friends who also already consumed cannabis because they were based again in a legal market were like, where did you get this beverage? Like, where did you get this product? And it was because they had never thought to go to the dispensary and ask for a beverage or a drink mix because that isn't what came to mind and often wasn't what was promoted to them. And they were like, what's interesting is, I know people that would definitely go to a dispensary to get this, but they wouldn't go to the dispensary without hearing about this product from someone like you. because at the time that market was very new. It had a very different cultural effect and feel to it. And I remember kind of at the time kind of laughing that off. And they're like, one day you're going to work in that space. And one day I just kind of decided to jump in. And I remember, my parents being like, this is career suicide. Like once you put cannabis on,
As parents do. Yeah.
My dad joked with me about it. He was like, you ignored my advice for the first 18 years of your life. So why would you suddenly start listening? Fast forward, he's done some consulting with some cannabis groups. It's gone full circle. But for me, beverage was a game changer in terms of blending into my life in a way that was seamless and giving me the ability to control my experience with cannabis, where other methods of consumption just didn't do that for me. The edibles, I struggled with consistency. I think a lot of those have gotten a lot better. I've definitely tried gummies where I'm like, oh, this is really nice. But for me, it was really beverage that blended in because it's an experience. You can celebrate with beverage. You can wind down on a Tuesday with a beverage. You can go out with your friends with a beverage. Like there's just a lot of opportunity and I think a lot of room for expansion of this space. And with the other cannabinoids, I look at this as being just the very beginning of functional THC beverage.
I mean, that's a huge opportunity. So without playing, favorites necessarily, let's do a little Diana's trend snapshot here.
Yeah.
What are some of the, not necessarily top brands, but what are you seeing as some of the most impactful brands in the space, established and emerging?
I think there's some really great brands that are doing a great job of expanding their portfolio beyond ready to drink. And I think that's really important because ready to drink has its place, but we are seeing things like convenience store activity growing in this market. They've got limited shelf space, so they're not likely to maybe start carrying spirits like mixers when they're used to carrying beer and wine. But they might be interested in carrying things like drink mixes or drink pouches, whether they're in powder form, like stick packs. Can has a great product called the Roadie. They've had it for years and originated in the regulated market and the dispensary channel in California. It's still one of my go-tos to this day. And it's a liquid stick pack where you can add it to, your bottle of water, or you could just squirt it in your mouth, but it's very transportable. And I think that is a huge opportunity for growth. And there's only a handful of brands doing it right now, like 1906, Whims. There's only a handful, but I think there's a lot of room for opportunity there. And like I said, with convenience, that's something they can sell at point of sale, right at the cashier's rep or in the back where they can keep an eye on it right behind them. Something that I think consumers are really going to like, particularly women who are not carrying around six packs in their purses. I think that's an opportunity. I also think the spirits category is growing. And in the beginning, it was really only Pomos. Now you've got nowadays, Breeze has entered that conversation. I think that's an area that on the hospitality front is going to be huge because we are seeing hospitality, restaurants, bars looking to add something to their adult beverage offering. And this is something that is growing, particularly during a time where the GLP-1s, this has been a huge conversation at conferences lately, GLP-1s like Ozempic, which you're not supposed to drink alcohol on, and also reduce appetite. Bars and restaurants are looking for where they can make up that margin and profits. Beverage can oftentimes be up to 50% of the profits at a restaurant or bar. So they want to make sure that they're keeping people drinking and consuming products where they can build in margin. THC beverages is a really great opportunity for that. And I think we're going to see a huge focus on, creating that mocktail experience that consumers have gotten used to, but they want something in it. This is a nice middle ground between alcohol and the non-alc, mocktail space.
It seems like also a great opportunity for people with expertise in building out those THC beverage programs, because I have spoken to several top bar owners and they're like, I know I need this. I know I need non-alc. I know I need THC to go along with all these people, the conventional beverage program. How do I do it? So there seems to be a great opportunity there. So what would you say is your ultimate goal? Like, what do you hope to see in the future for this? Like, what is your dream scenario?
Our end goal here is to see, THC beverages available anywhere where alcohol is sold and served. Obviously, We are fine with high dose products also being available in dispensary channels. And frankly, if the dispensary also wants to carry low dose beverages, we have no issue with that either. Most of them don't want to because their thin margin take up a lot of space and they don't sell very well. But we don't discriminate in terms of where they're sold as long as it's age gated and regulated appropriately. So our goal is really to see beverages like these have, at the federal level, we want to eliminate that gray area. We want to push for states' rights. We want states to have the opportunity to regulate these products similarly to how they regulate alcohol. They can opt in, opt out. We are seeing that at the state level. We saw, states like Tennessee implement regulation. I would say Minnesota is probably the closest market to what we'd like to see. However, I don't think there's any perfect market just yet that's really figured out the balance of who should be, regulating or overseeing these categories. In some states, you still have Department of Ag. Some states, you have the Office of Cannabis Management. Some you have the, ABC, alcohol beverage control boards, groups like that. There's still a lot of patchwork, but ultimately, I think we'd like to see some standardization across the country. We need standardized labels. We need standardized testing requirements, and all of those things I think can be achieved once we have some clarity on who's overseeing this category. The 3-tier system is not perfect. I think everyone knows that, but it's been very effective at creating distribution channels that, frankly, our beverages want to have access to. There are way too many independent retailers on the convenience side that people want to be delivering one-offs or hiring a different distributor in each market to try to fulfill. The 3-tier system provides, options that streamline that process a lot more. And right now, these beverages, 40 to 60% of their product is still being sold direct to consumer.
Wow.
And that is something that is not in the state regulation. Many of the states are trying to restrict that because they're not familiar and not used to having intoxicating products sold through the mail. And they don't feel that they are able to keep their constituents in their states safe when they have such loose regulation around direct to consumer. I think there's ways that we can work with that. We know that wine clubs exist and there's options for that. And I think it all depends on how we're categorized. And again, how much, we need to start somewhere. So our goal right now on the short term is let's get a baseline, let's get access to mainstream distribution and retail channels where adult beverages are sold, and then continue to improve upon that regulation over time. At the federal level, we really just need a thin base level of these are okay, push for states' rights, and the states can figure out how they want to regulate it. And we will gladly give them guardrails and our proposed regulation outlines. We are working on some updated template regulations now based on some of the regulation that we saw get pushed across this session.
Can you explain real quickly what the 3-tier system for those of us who are not in the business?
Sure. The 3-tier system is essentially how adult beverage is sold throughout the U.S. So you've got the 3 tiers, the suppliers, the brands, the distributors, and then the retailers. Those are the 3 tiers. It requires you to go through that process if you are regulated by the TTB and obligated to use the 3-tier system. There's been a lot of criticism over the 3-tier system over the years about it requiring you to use a wholesaler or distributor in markets, whereas you could easily build more margin in for yourself if you went directly or worked separately with a retailer. But what the 3-tier system has been very effective at doing, and this is something I think we don't talk about nearly as much as we should, particularly right now when a lot of the concern around intoxicating hemp products is around consumer safety and trust and quality aspects, is we don't have a counterfeit alcohol problem the way other countries do. And part of that is because of the checks and balances within the 3-tier system, the testing and the requirements that require you to go through each of those segments. Because of the state and federal licensing, these groups stick to that model like a T. They don't, there's no room for counterfeit product to weasel its way in because there's too much in jeopardy for them to be working with that. So while it's not a perfect system, it has been very good at solving one of the biggest issues that intoxicating hemp products have to deal with right now. And that is dealing with, in this case, I guess it wouldn't be counterfeit, but product that would be targeting the illicit market. not abiding by regulation, not being compliant. This would be a way that we could really clean up the market quickly if we were working within a system similar to it. Doesn't have to be identical, but definitely something similar that allows us access to use those mainstream distribution and retail channels.
Great. Thank you so much for that. So if there is one piece of information or a call to action that you would like our listeners to walk away from, especially these enthusiasts in the category, what would that be?
I think that the main takeaway here is, regulation, there's going to be compromise. We're not going to get everything we want right off the bat. We are going to have to start off, just like we say, start low and go slow with your dosage. We're going to have to probably start low and go slow with our regulation. We need a pathway forward that brings in those larger distributors, those larger retailers, so that they feel comfortable working within our category, because that's really what opens this opportunity up for the suppliers that have been in this space. So I think it's, we want people to be active. We want people to get involved with groups like the Coalition for Adult Beverage Alternatives and the Hemp Beverage Alliance that handle the state and federal lobbying efforts. Supporting those groups allows them to fund efforts to get strong lobbyists in each state, to hire, we have a top 10 lobbyist that we work with in DC. That changes who we're able to meet with and the conversations that we're having. So I think, getting involved, being aware, and making sure that your products are abiding by the regulations that we are pushing forward. If, I can't tell you enough, when a state implements a ban or restrictive policy and brands work around that, it makes it incredibly difficult for us to enter meetings saying, we want to work with you, we want to be regulated. They're like, do you? Because we put regulations in place and these groups are going around it. They are paying attention. And so, it's important that we are cognizant and respectful, even if we don't love the regulations. We need to make sure that we are operating responsibly.
Well, thank you for upping our knowledge, my knowledge with this incredible snapshot. One closing question. It's a mini podcast tradition. It's a little bit personal since we are the Luxury Meets podcast. How do you invite luxury into your life, Diana? What does it mean to you? Is it experiences? Is it wellness, mental health, products you love, travel? How do you do that?
Yeah. I love trying new products. It is one of my favorite things. Some of these brands have figured this out because they send me a lot of samples, which I'm very appreciative of. For me, it's experiences, things I can share with other people, which is partially why I love beverage so much, because this is something you can share. I also really love fancy glassware. As a female who lives with 2 cats, I've got 80 wine glasses. Like, no one needs that many wine glasses. I love putting together a nice cocktail or making it look nice. And I love using the THC beverages to do that so that everyone can feel like they're sharing in a similar experience. I can't drink vodka or whiskey the way I used to back in the day. And I'm always envious of my friends when they're able to get a really nice cocktail at a bar and it's put together nicely. The flavors are blended well. I like being able to do that at home. So to me, that's my luxury treat to myself, is putting it in fancy glassware, putting a big ice cube in it, putting some extra seasoning. I love the brands that have taken the time to create recipes with their beverages. I think that's a nice treat that you can easily do at home by yourself, or, treat yourself when you're out if you're in a state like Minnesota or Tennessee that has on premise.
What a great answer. Thank you, Diana Eberlein, for joining us. You kicked this episode off in style and education. It was and is a great experience. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jed.
And now for our next interview. Caitlin Murphy of Anytime Seltzer shares her keys to growing and promoting a fast-growing indie beverage brand while not racing towards an exit. You're really going to love this one. I am thrilled to welcome Caitlin Murphy, co-founder of Anytime Seltzer, an award-winning, woman-owned and led THC-infused seltzer brand, to the Luxury Meets podcast. Anytime is a low-dose, zero-sugar beverage brand that recently won 7 awards at America's Best Spirits competition, including Best in State. Caitlin, a Memphis, Tennessee native, is also a really seasoned marketer, having managed campaigns for the likes of Microsoft, Walmart, and Uber. And in 2024, she walked away from this cushy 9 to 5 into the uncertain world of small business, beverage, and cannabis, and has absolutely thrived under Caitlin's leadership. Anytime has experienced rapid growth, securing Southeast and Midwest distribution, expanding into Total Wine and more, wine, beer, and spirits in Nebraska, pop-up grocer in NYC, one of our favorites, Allstate Liquor and Wine in Wisconsin, and GoPuff across 14 states. If that's not enough, she and her partner also own Flowers, a hemp retail shop in Washington, D.C., and recently featured on NPR as well, which is dedicated to education around mental, physical, and emotional wellness. Welcome, Caitlin. Been waiting for this for a while.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. That was a really nice intro. Makes me sound a lot better than I think probably.
It's exciting for us, exciting for me. So just to jump right in, what was that aha moment for you that led you to leave your successful corporate job, working with all these really serious companies, and head into the very, very uncertain world, not only of small business, but also cannabis and beverage?
Yeah. I don't know if it was one aha moment. I mean, I have been obviously involved with the business. My fiance Chad started Flowers in 2019. It started as just an online CBD flower business and has grown and evolved to a hemp dispensary that has every type of cannabis product that you can imagine or want. But, I was around for it all. I was around for when we were packaging things up together in the kitchen or going to all of the pop-up markets and events every single weekend. I was capturing content and doing the social on the side. I was, consulting in every single way, but I also had a 9 to 5. And as much as I loved my 9 to 5 and really had learned so much and was around so many interesting and smart and clever people, I just felt a pull to the business as we started to grow and mature. So as we started to also get a little bit more financially stable as well, that started to be a real opportunity for both of us to go, to be full-time in this business. And, as much as I, again, learned so much from these large corporate brands and clients, I think after the pandemic, I felt like there's just a magic to small business. You're connected to your community a little bit more. You are seeing where everything is coming from. You are learning from your customers on what they want. There's a more of a direct connection to the customer in a way that you can't really experience at a large corporation. And so I think I just wanted to, I felt pulled to that, and I wanted to put my full effort and time into it.
So talk about that pull. Like, what is, once you started to think about it, what is your mission and what was your mission and vision for Anytime? And this pull, like, can you expand on really what excites you most also about what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, obviously, because we have both a hemp dispensary, we have a beverage brand. Chad is also involved in creating building materials out of hemp. You can do so much with this plant, and we really feel we want to destigmatize it. That is really at the core of everything that we do. I think Anytime is so set up well just because of the format to do that for a lot of people. You think about traditional ways of consuming cannabis with flower and all of that. It's typically you're having to get some accessories, you're having to break down something, you're having to learn a skill to roll something. And edibles, you're kind of taking it almost like a pill where you take it and you wait and then it hits you. I think, the beverage side of things, everybody knows how to drink, and it's so core to our society and our culture. There's just such a unique opportunity with this category to really destigmatize cannabis, to show people it is not this scary thing that the war on drugs made you think it was, or it is really not. It's really something that can help you tune in. It can help you connect to people. It can help you sleep. It can help you with pain. There's so many things that it can do. So that's probably the most exciting part. And really building something from the ground up. It's really incredibly interesting. I'm learning new skills every single day. I am meeting new challenges every single day. I am solving different problems every single day. It's never boring, and that's a really exciting part of it.
Now, do you look at it as part of this vision on top of what you just said? This, you are a women-led brand, not a lot of those in the space. Is it for wellness? Is this a health and wellness brand? Is it a transforming how we all socialize brand? Is that folded in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think two things can be true. Like, I think taking care of yourself and focusing on your wellness does incorporate being social and connecting with people in a healthier way. I mean, I think alcohol is at the center of so much of our culture and society, and there's a reason for that. I read this book called Drunk that talks about why we have been drinking alcohol for so long. And we have for centuries, we've been drinking alcohol. It is not just a modern age thing. And that's because, it's core to our survival is to connect with people. And this type of social lubricant is important to be able to connect with people and survive. And I still think that rings true now, where you can really start to connect with people at a different level when you do have that little bit of like social tonic, lubricant, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Cannabis and hemp beverages have such a core role of taking alcohol that I think we've pushed a little bit too far in that aspect, maybe, and we start to see some negative health effects with that. And now you have an alternative. It's not to say that, personally, I still drink alcohol and I still enjoy the connection that it gives me to other people. And, we cheers all the time, and that's connection to people. And, but there is an alternative if you don't want to have a hangover the next day, or you want to have a better night's sleep after a night out. There is that option. And for any time, we really thought about the wellness aspect as well, just because, zero sugar, 0 calories, 0 artificial sweeteners. We wanted this to be something that you're not thinking about anything else. You're not worried about anything else except for connecting with people, connecting with yourself, unwinding after a long day. It's like 0 regrets. You don't have to worry about anything. So absolutely, it's, the wellness and the social connection to me are really hand in hand in a lot of ways.
I love that answer, the connectivity. And just to go back a little, you've entered 2 very thus far male-dominated industries, cannabis and beverage. I'm not seeing many women-owned brands in the beverage space as of yet, even though data suggests that consumers for this particular product are predominantly women, sometimes 55, 60% and over in some cases. Am I missing something? What's happening here?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for that question. I think that it's something that we should talk about more, and that, we should be open about. And I know you had, Lisa from Happy on, and I look at her as just like a role model in the space. And she gives me hope as another female founder and owner in the space, and just seeing what she's doing. So I think I have a lot of thoughts on this. So if I'm ranting, please pull me back in, but
let it flow. Yeah.
A couple of things come up for me here. It's, I came from a marketing background, and most of my clients were women. Most of my colleagues were women. Most of my managers were women. And I had some great male managers and colleagues as well in the space, but I really came from a female dominated industry. And then very much to your point, male dominated industries where both cannabis and beverage, it's both very male dominated. So it was a little bit jarring, and I've had to actually take a step back and think about why this is. And I think from the cannabis side of things, I looked at how I was introduced to cannabis, and I was introduced to cannabis from a man. And when I thought about why that was, and why a lot of my female friends also were introduced to cannabis by men, you think about back in the day, we didn't have the amazing access that we have to cannabis products now. If you were going to consume cannabis in South Carolina, where I went to school, you were going to meet somebody in a parking lot, or someone was coming over.
Some alley, some roll down the window.
Exactly.
And yeah, I remember it well.
And it wasn't a comfortable space for me as a single young woman to go and do. And it also felt too like almost like going to the mechanic, right? Where it's like, I don't know what I'm asking for. I don't know what the price is what it should be if you're going to take me for a ride with this price or whatever it is. So I was happy to let the guys kind of do that part. But I think we've seen that like whoever has access has a lot of control, right? And I think that's where that's where the industry went. The men were the ones who knew what to ask for, knew what they were looking for. That makes it much easier for you to start a business and figure those things out. And I think on the beverage side, there's a lot of different components to that. There's like logistics and like trucking, and you're moving heavy pallets of product, thousands of pounds of product in a pallet. And I think that kind of just gravitated towards men. There's also like distributors are mostly men. So I work with many men on a daily basis. And a good example for me is the other day we went to receive a shipment of pallets because we're kind of like in between warehouses right now. And so we have to go do it ourselves. And we met this truck driver, and his first question to us was, why did they send women? And
wow,
like so many implications of that, right? Like that someone sent us first and foremost. It's like, no, we sent, it was myself and my director of business development, she's my partner in crime. She's everything. We run the day-to-day operations. It's like, we sent ourselves, first of all. Second of all, we are actually the ones paying you to get this to us. And also that you don't think that I don't know how, or you don't think that I know how to use like a pallet jack. Like I own a beverage company at this point. I know how to use a pallet jack and can get a pallet from point A to point B and, not think twice about it. But it just, those are the types of comments and things that, even when they're not as explicit, there are times when we've asked for money that is owed to us, and we've followed up several times. And I have to say, hey, Chad, can you ask this person for our money? And then we receive the money. So I think that it's hard. It's hard to be a woman in the space. You have to have, some thick skin and have to kind of be able to deal with those comments or that, the behavior towards you, whatever it is. And you have to be able to kind of put your head down and just focus on the business, which is a hard thing. You're not, it's not solely just the business. There's also the side stuff that a lot of women have to deal with as well.
I mean, those macro and micro aggressions to really still have energy at the end of the day is really an incredible accomplishment, and speaks to how fascinating and this opportunity with what you're doing and this category. And, with all of this cannabis or new categories, the consumer, despite regulations, is demanding this, and the female consumer is driving this and drives purchasing decisions. So there is these lanes like are not intersecting just yet. So what is your customer profile? You've had some insights this last year and a half being in business, the age range of who your customer is for any time. What have you learned about this person, and does that continue to motivate you around these challenges that you're speaking of?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is, our consumer is majority women. And we see a little bit more, when we first started out, I was like 21 to 45 was what I thought. That sort of has moved in age range, moved up a little bit. Like I think it's more late 20s to like early 50s is what we see. And of course, like, we're zero sugar, 0 calories, all this stuff, like men love it too. Like it's not that it's just for one particular demographic, but we do see women gravitating towards this. They're usually, kind of on the go folks that they're juggling a couple of different things. They are looking for something that helps them relieve the stress, but without that, hangover the next day. Like these are busy women. These are busy people who have soccer games that they got to get the kids to the next day. They've got, businesses to run. They've got, things to achieve and do, and they don't have time to, be hungover the next day and essentially lose a day. So those are kind of, I think of them as like high achievers, people who are juggling a few different things, and women really from like 27 to 50 plus kind of age range is really who we're seeing now. And as we continue to get into other markets, I am sure that will grow and evolve and change, but that's kind of what we're seeing right now.
Now, does that impact your marketing, or, given you've done these huge campaigns for Uber and companies like that, do you kind of step on the gas when it comes to that? Okay, this is our customer, so we're going to do X, Y, Z. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're young enough, and also we're just such a small team that we have the ability to be pretty agile and test out different things. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I get a lot of ideas, and I have a lot of aha moments in learning more and more about our customers. I even like posting different videos and seeing how people react to them. One of the ones that I think did really well for us was just like essentially talking about all of I just listed out basically my to-do list, and that it was all done and I was cracking open at any time. And like that, now it's me time, and that one I feel like really spoke to, it didn't go viral or anything like that, but I can tell by the numbers and just like, people watching and comments and those types of things that like, that really spoke to people. And I think I take that as it does kind of like a light bulb goes off a little bit where, women they're doing more in the workplace. They are, more educated and going to school and doing all of these things, earning different degrees, but they're still the ones who are taking on the majority of the housework or the child care.
That's right.
And, that is a lot. It is a lot for,
I mean, that resonates. It's authentic. It's like, here's what I did. And
I mean, I think like the thing about being a woman-owned brand in the space and knowing that women are the consumers in this, not the only consumers, but that are a growing group of consumers in this space, I think that we are uniquely positioned to tell that story and to speak to that, because although I don't have children, I do still take on the majority of the housework, and like I'm running a business and my fiance is running a business, and there's a lot to do. We're trying to plan a wedding, and I know that's going to be something that
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just add that in there. Entrepreneurs always seem to add things like, I'm just going to add a wedding onto these two like fast growing businesses.
We're hiring our friend to be like, can you project manage us to make this happen? Because I don't, it's hard to find the time, but yeah, I think that like a lot of it comes from my own experiences, my friends' experiences, my mom's experience, what I'm hearing from everyone around me. And also, I mean, we're in a time where, gosh, we just consume so much information, so many stories, so much emotion. So there's so much going on that we consume within like a 5-minute span of scrolling, right? In addition to having to do all of these things. So I think people are just looking for a break, and that's, with any time, it's like, hey, this is a 0 sugar, 0 calorie seltzer that just helps you de-stress, has a little bit of THC, a little bit of CBD, like take yourself a moment and give yourself some time to connect with yourself or with others. And so, yeah, it absolutely does really connect back to like my own experiences.
And you're connecting with others, and this is facilitating, can you tell our listeners about the product itself? Yeah. And maybe what makes it a little different? You recently did win 7 awards at the America's Best Spirits competition, including Best in State, which says something about it's in the spirits competition. And, you definitely have our attention with that, your flavors, like tell us about the product a little bit.
Yeah, I've kind of mentioned it here and there already, but so we're a 0 sugar, 0 calorie, 0 artificial sweetener hemp seltzer. So we wanted to make it something that you could reach for at any time, which is why we called it Anytime. We really focused on approachable dosing. So our first dosage was 5 milligrams of THC and 15 milligrams of CBD. We actually just came out with a 2 milligram, which I know is kind of counter to what we see in the industry, that consumers are going more in the 10 direction, which we will come out with a 10 too. We're coming out with a 10 milligrams soon as well. But we like to have the combination of THC and CBD because, first and foremost, we're not a company that's just like, get high. Like, that's not what we're here for. We're here to help you unwind. We're here to help you de-stress. We're here to help you make healthier choices, whether that means swapping out your alcohol beverage or just, trying to not have so much sugar in your life. Like, that is what we're here for. We're not really here for like, just get super high or anything like that. And we also want to make it really, unintimidating and not overwhelming for someone who maybe has never tried cannabis before, or maybe has and had a bad experience. If anybody's ever had an edible or something that they had paranoia or they had just like a terrible experience, the cannabinoid that does that and is the culprit for that is THC. It does a lot of wonderful things, but that is usually the culprit for those sort of like quote unquote bad trips. So with CBD, that helps to balance things out. CBD is a non-psychoactive cannabinoid. Right. It really helps with relaxation and, just stress relief and working together. It's called the entourage effect, when cannabinoids work together to sort of enhance the experience. And so we really believe in that. We really believe in this sort of like balanced effect. We never want it to be like solely really one thing. So that's sort of why we chose to do both THC and CBD in the formulation. And that's the case for our 5, and our 10 milligram THC. So yeah, it's a completely clean seltzer. We're also really proud of our taste. I mean, there's nothing really to hide behind. There can, if we have no sugar, it's just natural flavors. It's carbonated water and hemp extract. That is pretty much the ingredient list for our seltzer. And so, when you do something like that, you've got to do it well. There's, not much to hide behind. If there is like a planty aftertaste or a skunky aftertaste or things like that, people are not going to want to drink that. We're really proud that our emulsion, which is the water soluble THC that goes into these beverages, is just really good, and no aftertaste, no planty, herby, skunky aftertaste at all. Literally tastes like a LaCroix, but you'll get a little bit of a buzz with it without, the hangover the next day.
A great reference. So I want to talk about dry January. A lot of this NA non-alcoholic trend is huge right now. It might not be, it's not a trend, it's a category. Some call it dry-ish January. Is this a big deal for your company? And do you plan for it each year, or you're just going as you're going and you see spikes in sales?
We definitely planned for it this year. I mean, that was our first real like influencer campaign. That was our largest month to date. I think it is important. It is when people are thinking about alcohol alternatives and alcohol substitutes and thinking about different ways other than alcohol to consume and get some sort of buzz. Or it's also a time when people are thinking about their relationship to alcohol. So I think it is a great opportunity for hemp beverages to showcase themselves as that alcohol alternative. And it has really shown to be an impactful month for us. And I think, of course, the way things move in this landscape, just like the cultural landscape in general, I'm sure like each year will be different, but that is definitely something we plan for, because we know it's when people are going to be thinking about, okay, what is my relationship with alcohol? Do I need to substitute something here? I still want to go out. I still want to connect with people, but I'm trying to put a pause on alcohol for a second, which I think that honestly people should do with every sort of substance. We encourage people to take tea breaks as well, because I think we should all be thinking about our relationship to anything that gives you a little bit of that buzz feeling or helps you like check out or whatever it is. So yeah, dry January is a really interesting time for us and has been a really successful time for us as well.
I mean, it's fascinating. Despite being a bootstrap brand, I see a lot of brands in the space. You can feel them wanting to exit, and some are venture capital funded, like, let's do this and exit. I'm not getting that feeling here, of course. And despite that, you're just growing really rapidly. in the hemp beverage space. What has been your approach? Like, what are these tactics, if you don't mind talking about it? You mentioned influencers, you mentioned dry January. Is it just not doing too much, making sure the business is like just really nice and easy and healthy when it comes to the numbers? How do you do what you do basically without giving away your secret sauce? Yep.
No, I mean, I think I'm happy to talk about these things because I think I wish more people did this, and I know it's difficult, and I'm not saying it's easy and that people should just jump in. We're blessed to have done it and it worked out, but I know it's a scary thing for people. But I think more people should do it because more power to the people, really, and not just the people with money. I definitely encourage people to, if you have an idea, run with it. But as far as the tactics that have really worked for us, I mean, I think just in general, we've had to be really strategic we don't have all the resources. We don't have all the hands. We have to be really thoughtful and intentional about what opportunities we take on, because there are so many opportunities and there are so many ways that we could grow this business or directions that we could go. And we really have to be thoughtful and intentional and strategic about it and what's going to make the most impact. And even thinking about like trade shows, for example, there's tons of them that we could go to, but we just like physically don't have the people and the capacity to do that. So, really thinking about who's going to be there and what the impact is going to be, what we're trying to do right now, what's the next step, and then what is that solution or what is that thing that we can do that gets us closer to that. I mean, we've had a lot of success in networking, honestly. We were at Mindful Drinking Fest, which was lucky enough to be in DC during dry January. And I was on a panel with the I think he's a chief revenue officer of Keef and the founder of Pomos, and being able to talk with those guys who, I mean, those are some huge brands. And, Blake from Keef has like literally introduced me to distributors who are now our distributors. And of course we had to have a great product to back up everything. And, just getting a connection doesn't always mean that you're going to get that business, but it absolutely helps. So being able to network, and I think people see that we do the right thing. I think people, even if they have all of the funding in the world, respect what we're doing. And we've gotten, and in general, I think the hemp, especially hemp beverage, we all know we have to advocate together for this category. So there's a lot more collegial attitudes rather than competitive attitudes. And that has really served us well. I'm trying to think of other tactics. I think
maybe something that you did recently that expectedly or unexpectedly, you were like, oh, that was really successful for D2C, or we landed in this retailer and sold through. Was there one kind of even mini moment where you're like, oh, that was effective, that worked?
Yeah, well, I think we spent a lot of money on the influencer campaign that I mentioned in dry January, which did pan out for us in a lot of ways. But then when you looked at the ROI at the end of the day, it was like, wow, we paid these influencers a lot, and some of them did great and some of them didn't. And I just started to, like, while I was scrolling myself, kind of just like slide into people's DMs. Like, it's just me talking to another person and just offering to give them samples. And we had some really like large and sort of like taking off influencers post about us, say that they like us, say that they're telling their friends about us. That has really helped as well. And I think that was sort of an aha moment for me about, yes, that takes more work, but it is like an organic way that I actually connect with each of these influencers. And I think those influencers are entrepreneurs in their own right. They are doing this on their own and putting out themselves as their brand. And there's an ability to connect in a way that sometimes when you do it more of like an agency or business aspect, that's not always there. So that was really cool to see. And I think, this is like not a sexy or cool answer, but digital ads, we've really seen from the direct to consumer side of things, especially when we're able to maybe target certain markets that we know we're about to be in, like Wisconsin or Nebraska. to just sort of complement the retail side of things with also people seeing it on their phones, because we just know that's where people are. So that's not a sexy answer by any means. But
no, that's is it Facebook, TikTok, IG, those things mixed with this. If I'm going to take away this great product, relationship building, founder authenticity, like people love that. I think that's a great recipe that you have, which takes me into my final two questions for you. What does the future hold for Anytime?
I mean, the sky is the limit as long as regulation doesn't interfere. But we like you mentioned, we're not here racing towards an exit. We believe in the power of the plant. We believe in small business, and we kind of want to be that. I think about like a Sierra Nevada brewing, where they're like a craft beer that that brand, but it's still, it's going to be a good quality beer. It is not just like, the Bud Lights of the world or anything like that. I love a Bud Light every now and then. So, not trying to trash Bud Light, but we want something that is like, quality that people can trust, and while still continuing to grow and be a brand that people are aware of, that they know that they like. So we do have, a revenue goal of hitting, $1 million this year as a Grassroots brand. And I think that we're on our way to do that. But we're not, racing towards an exit or trying to be a $50 million brand or anything like that at any time soon. And we also want to give our company back to our employees. Like I mentioned Catherine, who's our director of business development. She came on and just worked her tail off and has just been, we call her like the chief operating officer of, I don't know if I can curse on here, but getting shit done. Okay.
You can.
She just gets shit done. And so she has, now earned equity in this, and that's what we want. We don't want to give equity to people who are just going to give money. We want people who are going to, work and build this with us. So that is really, when I think about the future of Anytime, it's, a bunch of founders basically, or, owners who are working to build this and working to build it in the right way and do the right thing always.
No, it sounds like an incredibly healthy recipe. We're looking forward to that. Now, I have a closing question. It's kind of our mini podcast tradition. Caitlin, how do you invite luxury into your life? What does it mean to you? Is it experiences, more free time? Is it products? Is it social connections? How do you invite that into your life?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this question. I think, honestly, for me right now, the most luxurious thing is to have no plans and no work obligations and a clean house and a book and, a beverage, whether that's like coffee or an Anytime or something, and just completely just relaxing. Like that to me is the most luxurious thing that I can think of at the moment, which is maybe just tells you where my life is currently, but that is luxury to me, just having that time to just fully relax, nothing to worry about. That is luxury to me.
That is an amazing answer. I actually just went there as well as you were saying that. I'm like, oh, can that happen? I hope so. But thank you so much, Caitlin. Anytime is available nationally via the Anytime website. Visit anytimeseltzer.com. Also at select retail locations across the U.S. Visit Total Wine and More in North Carolina, Wine, Beer, and Spirits in Nebraska, Go Puff across 14 states, Allstate Liquor and Wine in Wisconsin, as well as Pop-Up Grocer in New York City. Once again, visit anytimeseltzer.com. Thank you so much, Caitlin. We learned so much. I can't wait for our listeners to hear this.
Thank you so much for having me. This was just a great conversation. I appreciate the opportunity.
I hope you enjoyed that and were as inspired as I was with that last interview. And now, next up, our interview with the man behind Snoop Dogg's and Wayne Coyne of the Flaming Lips THC beverage brands, Evan Enneman. It is my pleasure to welcome Evan Enneman to the Luxury Meats podcast as part of our hugely popular Beverage Superstars series, Part 2. Since 2018, Evan has been the co-founder and CEO of Iconic Tonics and founder and CEO of Harmony Craft Beverages, overseeing an impressive portfolio of functional, THC-infused, and non-alcoholic beverage brands for the likes of Snoop Dogg, Wayne Coyne of the Flaming Lips, the brand Klaus with legendary mocktail mixologist Warren Bobrow, and many, many others. Prior to that, he co-founded Casa Verde Capital for Snoop Dogg and launched and scaled the largest cannabis accounting, tax, and advisory practice in the U.S. He holds a finance, marketing, and decision degree from the Wharton School. And if that's not enough, Evan has worked with everyone from startups to Fortune 50 companies, including Goldman Sachs, AIG, NBC Universal, Facebook, Snap, and so many others. Wow, what haven't you done, Evan? Evan is a true wellness and innovation pioneer. Welcome to the podcast. Been wanting to have you on for a while.
Thanks for having me, Jed. Great to be here.
So on the Luxury Meats podcast, we love the founder aha moments, those starts. It seems like these talented visionary founders and execs I interview, they always go for something really difficult and like create something special. So how do you go from Wharton and Fortune 50 to this aha moment all the way to cannabis wellness and specifically the booming THC beverage space? Was it your life not difficult enough, not challenging enough? What was that? What's the aha moment there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a full podcast episode on its own, so I'll try and keep it brief. As most people have at some point, these decisions in life, and mine started in my mid-20s to decide if I wanted to keep going the corporate route or not. And I moved from New York to California for various reasons, one of which was some work I was doing in the entertainment space around music. I'd had this history of working in corporate consulting and hospitality and supply chain in these different areas. Moved out to the West Coast because of a film project that had won an Oscar for the music. Well, not an Oscar for the music, but an Oscar for the film. And I worked on the music side with my then business partner, who was a composer, and got embedded in West Coast culture. And the difference in understanding East Coast mentality around plant medicine or wellness categories that are less holistic is very different from the understanding and the acceptability of that on the West Coast. So it really started when I moved out to California. At the same time, I understood cannabis in a very different way because it was not stigmatized. It was very understood and accepted. So around 2012, 2014, as we started to see legalization changing, I was looking at my own personal experience around cannabis consumption and plant medicine and the intentionality of that. And I saw an opportunity to finally merge a lot of these different experiences that I had in the corporate world and working with big entertainment and technology companies, working in hospitality. And at the time, I'd been working with Snoop Dogg, again, on the music side, scoring some little, short films that he was doing and working with his management team. And as legalization came about, it was the aha moment to say, well, there's all these different experiences that I've had in my life and that I can then share with others through a very normalized, standardized, structured process, which is something that is more familiar to a corporate setting. Things that have control and process and depth of brand. And so that was the shift into cannabis from this corporate world. And beverage came a little bit later. That aha moment with beverage was in 2018, working more closely with non-alcoholic beverages and more alcohol removal. So it was a chance for me to take my personal experience in all these different facets of life, see legalization happening, and knowing that in that time frame we were going to need to have more rigor to the process because there was such a need for education and understanding that it just made sense. And I also started to do that with really the biggest brand ambassador of the world in cannabis at the time was Snoop Dogg. So it's been a very interesting entry.
Yeah, I mean, that is amazing. And you started and you're founder and CEO of Harmony Craft Beverages. Now, can you explain your vision for Harmony Craft Beverages? your role, and if you can go into some of the brands, it just seems like you have something for everyone. Does that also speak to how big this cannabis / THC beverage phenomenon is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Harmony Craft Beverages came out of this experience I was mentioning in 2018, really getting involved in the alcohol removal and non-alcoholic space. We did a global rebrand for a company that performed that removal process. So it was creating premium base liquids, non-alcoholic wines. We were able to do a cider. And we started to look at the landscape, and what was apparent to me at the time is we were pushing products and categories that are very difficult to normalize. Smoking a joint or a blunt or anything else, or taking a dab or something of that nature. Even the edible experience for people at the time were difficult. So Harmony Craft Beverages came about because we wanted to create something that was different and unique and focusing on premium quality craft beverages. And we saw beverages as the format to help shape people's awareness around plant medicine and cannabis consumption in a way that was very normalized for people. And so we started to develop that, and it really became a process or an incubator of several brands at the time, one of which is Klaus that you had mentioned earlier. And that was with Warren Bobrow, a master mixologist who came from spirits and a whole bunch of other experiences. And our focus there has been and always is on quality of the beverage and focus on premium quality of that. And we also launched several other brands or piloted several other brands because at the time we were doing this in the regulated cannabis space. Very difficult, very challenging. Not a space to really be in. And for some of the brands we were launching, we were focusing on low-dose beverages, which there too in the dispensary channel, not the format and not the product that someone going into dispensary would actually want. But for us, our goal was to always to normalize and provide access to more potential consumers who needed better quality products for their health and wellness regimen, whatever that is, whether it's for calm, anxiety, performance, whatever it may be. And so we started to build brands like Malus, which is a cider-based brand, Herbasi, which is with Jamie Evans, which is a wine-based brand. And then over the years, we kept developing and working on these early stage brands we were incubating. And, Harmony Craft Beverages was the umbrella for all of those, and there are better few beverages in the functional category. And last year, we reconnected with the team, Tiffany Chin, who was leading Snoop's cannabis practice overall globally, and really starting to explain what we've been doing in the regulated cannabis space, really cannabis and hemp, why we focused on the quality of the brands and the quality of the liquids and rolling things out in a responsible way and focusing on education and awareness. And Snoop had been developing brands as well, and we ultimately brought those two together, which is now Iconic Tonic. So that's the merger of the 5 brands that we had been developing and the 2 that they had. So now we have 7 brands in the portfolio, 2 of which are Snoop's brands, Do It Fluid and Doggy Spritz, 5 which came from Harmony Craft Beverages. One is, as you mentioned, with Coyne, the Flaming Lips. That's Lifeblood by Love Your Brain. Klaus, Malus, Herbasi, and then Lift is another brand that we brought into the portfolio in that same time period. So what we're really looking to do is operate premium quality beverage brands that focus on non-alcoholic and functional options for modern consumers that provide a adult beverage alternative. And that's really what we're offering is people choices for various occasions for them to consume within their lifestyle.
I mean, it does feel like even since we last, when we first scheduled this, Evan, Sam Adams came out with a cannabis beverage. It seems like hundreds of brands are flooding into the space. It just feels like a phenomenon. I read somewhere that the global THC beverage market in 2024 was about $2 billion US, and this is projected to grow to 117 and change billion by 2032, driven by increasing consumer demand and cannabis legalization. Taking a step back, for the non-cannabis consumer, for this mainstream consumer, this consumer who might not go into a dispensary, why THC beverages? Why now? And what is a THC beverage? Like, I think some people still, like a lot of people are like, well, that's going to make me twisted. I'm going to stick with my tequila shots or my Jägermeister. That's my safe, my safe zone. What is going on here? Like, tell our audience, which is cannabis, but it's also well beyond that and global. Like, why is this happening? Why is this so important? What is the general consumer need to know?
All great questions, and to try and simplify them, because they're not that simple to answer. Specifically, what is a THC beverage and why would you want to consume a THC beverage? Again, our portfolio is all functional beverages, so it's not just THC. It includes adaptogens, nootropics, and certain other psychoactives. But with THC, what's unique is you have a regulated space, and then you have a hemp-derived THC space. While the molecules are exactly the same for the most part, there are differences in how those products can be developed. In the hemp side, you're not really going to get a full spectrum cannabis plant extract like a live rosin or a resin. You're really getting a distillate. And so what we're doing with these products and ours in certain cases are working with live rosins and blending a full plant profile. Others are distillates where we add in terpenes and other functional ingredients. You're creating a way for a consumer to have a very consistent experience that they're used to in their lives. So you mentioned, well, why not just stick with my tequila or Jaeger shot or whatever my social, functioning drink is. And that's exactly the reason for a THC beverage. You don't have to change your behaviors, which is the hardest thing to do for someone, is changing their behaviors.
Right.
You're actually integrated into their current lifestyle, the way they like to socialize. And that's in a beverage format. And so you have these ingredients, THC being one of them, that can provide a lot of different benefits, also depending on what other functional ingredients are in there, whether that be stress reduction, the ability to be a little bit more creative or a little bit more social or a little more fun and uplifted. In certain cases, depending on the ingredients like CBD or others, you might have other benefits as well for calm or inflammation or things of that nature. Others are fusing adaptogens like lion's mane and reishi to enhance cognitive abilities. So there's all these different formulations that are happening. And really what consumers are looking for is a similar buzz with a different outcome. And so if you can think about those experiences that you have with your tried and true beverage of choice being a beer, wine, spirits, you know the outcome because you maybe have experimented with that over the course of 20, 30 years, or maybe you're just getting into it and learning about it. The shift in beverage with THC and other functionals is that experience you've had, you may not like all of the times you've consumed because maybe you overconsumed a little bit or maybe a lot. And when you overconsume alcohol by a lot, it's very detrimental to your immediate function and maybe also long-term.
Morning after. This is a no hangover space. It's a health driven. People actually, sounds like they want these benefits. Plus what you're doing, Evan, you and your team is really transforming how we get together and socialize. There's no one left out, in a sense.
There is no one left out. And it can be as sophisticated as you want it to be with a very high quality, ready to drink cocktail. And no one's really going to know unless you have a beverage that is infused with terpenes or full plant. If it's distillate, you may never know what's in that drink. So you can sit down with someone, have a conversation at a bar or in your house, and no one really knows your business, or you can let them know your business. And it can also be in the same format as a beer, using a non-alcoholic base, infusing it with THC. And rather than having 4 or 5 beers, you might have 4 or 5 low-dose infused non-alcoholic beers, and have the same conversation with your friend or your family member or whoever it may be that you want to have that conversation with. And the outcome of that is you might be more compassionate in that conversation. You might laugh a little bit more in that conversation.
Well said.
Be more engaged in that conversation because it's more intentional. And the reality is I do enjoy alcohol for certain occasions and for certain uses, all different sorts of that as well. And so really it's not about eliminating something in your life necessarily, unless that's something that you need to do. It's more about giving yourself the option, giving consumers options for how they want to show up, how they want to experience themselves with others in social settings and on their own. It allows you to be very introspective in a way that's healthy. And so that's really what the beverage format gives. It's a accessible, desirable, and widely accepted format. And in my view, and I've said this since back in 2018, the only way for cannabis and other plant medicine to really be widely accepted is if the mix, the sort of category mix, is predominantly beverage, maybe 50% beverage, because otherwise we're still working in these stigmatized categories of flower and pre-rolls, and you can't smoke in restaurants. It's not acceptable necessarily to smoke around other people who aren't interested in it. Edibles are not a very social experience necessarily, and so we really have a form factor that works really well in every context, in every setting, and for every desired outcome based on your intention.
No, it's fascinating. It's not. I've spoken to some other leaders in the space, and they're saying, no, we're not saying take alcohol away. We're not saying remove that. Let's add this. Let's filter this in as part of this sessionable experience. And this distillate concept process you're talking about, is that what we're seeing at grocery stores? Is that what we're seeing, like the second circle of consumer out, the more mainstream? That's what people are kind of stumbling upon, where it's this hemp derived, where you do have an effect?
Correct. Yeah. So you're seeing this in mainstream channels, in Total Wine and More, in grocery stores, in convenience stores, in liquor stores across the board, and now even in gas stations, depending on where you are in the country. So it's interesting because there's a similar patchwork of regulations now that have been developed, similar to the regulated space, where it is state by state, while it is federally legal under the Farm Bill to consume hemp-derived THC beverages and sell them and consume them and transport them. Certain states are defining their own local regulations, and there's some consistency within that, and there's also a wide degree of variation of what people are restricting and why. But that is exactly what an everyday consumer walking into a convenience store or a grocery store or liquor store in their hometown can find hemp and hemp-derived THC and have it as part of their beverage mix.
I mean, it's such a revelation for the cannabis category. I was going to ask you, you touched on it. Where is the opportunity? These retail chains like Total Wine and Top 10 Liquors and various grocers, natural grocers, are carrying these drinks. In some cases, these are literally making up like 15% and up of all in-store sales. Are you seeing, where you sit, Evan, the opportunities to continue to grow alongside beer and wine, or is it getting into these what looks to be like smaller natural grocer chains? I think there's like Fresh Time. I think that's in Michigan and Raleigh, or are bars and restaurants going to start, or are they starting to carry this aside from those like pop-up experiences? There just seems like so much opportunity. How is this phased for you?
Yeah, so we're seeing exactly that it is lining up alongside every other, I'd want to say just beverage alcohol category, but it's really broader, just beverage category, but let's stick with beverage alcohol. And Troy, the CEO of Total Wine, mentioned this at a recent conference. The consumers walking in the door to pick up THC beverages is an uptick of roughly 33% in their store, about 45% uplift overall, but 33% new consumers. So any retail establishment that's looking at their bottom line and saying this category is bringing 33% new customers into the store, you cannot continue to look away from that. Same thing's happening on premise, and looking at when you have THC available next to beer, wine, seltzer, whatever it is, consumers aren't opting out. There is a category of non-alcoholic, adult beverages that are really these really refined, ready to drink, cocktail or mocktails or non-alcoholic spirits that can blend really, really well for a non-alcoholic beverage. So it's similar, but it doesn't have that share of buzz. What we're seeing is a lot of consumers, while they like that, they're also looking for that, whatever that function
the social is, piece or that extra wind down. Yeah.
So we're seeing it in restaurants in states that allow for on-premise consumption. We're seeing it in live experiences like music festivals and events such as that. We did a test run actually with Wayne and the Lips last summer at a venue in Oklahoma City, at the Oklahoma City Zoo, where we, surprise and delight moment. We brought product there to sample for his fan base, and we had it available for sale for a little bit of time, and it outsold all other liquid on premise. Water, wine, beer, seltzer, hard alcohol, everything.
That's the pull quote here. Like, you need to say that again, to everyone you talk to, not to interrupt, but it's this revenue driver. This is a powerful moment, and we'll get to these parallel regulations or non-regulations in a second. But, as you're saying, the best selling liquid at this event with the Flaming Lips.
It's not only a revenue driver, it's a revenue driver in a way that shifts perceptions around cannabis and functional products. It helps us to say, wow, this isn't, something you do in a corner anymore. I can sit with all of my friends in the same exact location with them, enjoy the same experience, whatever that experience is, and still be part of that community and group that you're in. And also from a retail or sort of commercial side, yeah, there's revenue to it. And that model is shifting very, very quickly. The price compression and the value consumer versus a premium consumer, like that's what's really going to be interesting is as this all shapes up. And this is where we've been looking at premium luxury categories and brands, not just value categories and brands, because we look at this as a very broad opportunity for ourselves and for others.
I mean, that's the sign of maturation of a category, and that's got to be exciting. Speaking of, you spoke about the Flaming Lips and Wayne Coyne, celebrity brands. You have a lot of experience in this area, having led these celebrity-driven brands with Snoop Dogg, Doggy Spritz, and Wayne Coyne of the Flaming Lips called Love Your Brain. And of course, on a industry celebrity is Warren Bobrow. What are the unique challenges and benefits to launching these types of celebrity brands?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it really comes down to brand alignment and affinity. It's the credibility, the authenticity of that individual, be it celebrity or not, and why they're doing something. I can look at Warren and say he's as much of a celebrity as Snoop or Wayne. Now, obviously not a celebrity quotient, but in terms of what he represents to cannabis beverages, he wrote the book quite literally in 2015 on cannabis beverages. That's something that's unique in and of itself. Now, we can look to Snoop and what does that look like, and Wayne and what does it look like? It allows for consumers to look at someone and say, okay, well, that's an authentic brand and how they're speaking to consumers, and that can transcend generations, and people can understand it in a way that they've never been able to understand it before. So having Snoop being part of the business and even Wayne in the same way, it allows for people to feel that they can trust the brand a little bit more. There's more credibility behind what they're doing. And that's whether it's Seth Rogen or anyone else. You're going to look to them and say, okay, well, I recognize they are influential broadly, and they speak to an audience that understand cannabis specifically. And they're globally recognizable names and brands. And so they bring a lot of that normalization and that credibility. Now, the challenge is, on the flip side of that is, well, what does it actually do for the brand? Is someone going to look at that and say, well, that doesn't, I don't care that a celebrity is behind it. I don't care that there's something unique about it, which is fair. No one has to consume our beverages no matter what. The difference is what we focus on is the quality behind the brand and the liquid no matter what. What we do get is the benefit of a globally recognizable brand, a platform to talk about things. We can insert and integrate our beverages and our brands into the cultural fabric that our influencers have been developing for the past 30 and 40 years. So we are part of the culture. We're building the culture. We're just not coming in and saying, hey, we want to take a piece of this. And I think for a consumer, that's the big difference. When they see someone come in and say, they've never been part of it, they've never put themselves on the line for something like cannabis, and says, oh, I can go make money now? Great, I want to do that endorsement deal. That's not really as authentic as what a consumer is looking for. And so they will definitely shy away from that.
People can sniff that out, I think, more and more in this idea of combining business authentically with culture. That seems like the alchemy right there for you guys. Are some celebrities more involved, less involved? Is there a challenge keeping attention? Because I've seen and interviewed other, certain celebrity brand owners, and some of them are just barely aware of what their brand is doing, and then some are like, I'm in there, every day. I imagine there's a balance.
There's a balance, and everyone's different. Everyone has a different perspective of how they like to work. If you're a Ryan Reynolds, that's a very different way of how he shows up for his brands, how he integrates it into his creative strategy, his content strategy. And so he's very unique in how he approaches things. Others very similarly. And then there are some that they provide their name. That's great. Do what you can with it, and let's see what happens. We have the benefit of partners, Wayne, Snoop, and others who believe in what they and we are doing together. And so that gives us a little bit of a different edge, because when we think about what we're doing from a content perspective, whether it be an album release, a tour, a new piece of content that's coming out, or a partnership, we're able to integrate our beverages and our brands into those occasions, into those conversations with all of our partners. And so that's really unique, and that's a benefit that you don't always get. So whether it might not be that celebrity's actual time, that might be the case, but it's what they've created for decades. So we have the benefit of, for example, an album release party. We just did that with Snoop for his latest album, Is It a Crime? I didn't need him to come over and pick up the can and do anything. I was there because we're part of his experience of providing his outlet to the world through music. And we're there with our beverages, sharing that with his audience too. So that's the difference of everyone says, well, they're not spending their time. He has spent his time in a lot of ways for us to bring our products to his audience. And so sometimes we'll need a photo shoot, we'll need a video shoot, we'll need a shout out, we'll need this, we'll need a performance or whatever that may be. And that's for anyone. Other times we can integrate it into the fabric of what's already been developed. And that's really, I think, the key to having a successful brand with an endorser or a celebrity or not, is knowing how to be creative, knowing how to tap into those cultural moments, and then using them to share that with our audience. We're not selling anything to anyone. We're sharing things with them, and it's their choice to consume them or to purchase them. And that's a big difference too in how we look at what we're doing with our brands.
I mean, that's a great, unique approach. Your business platform and that approach, it's really differentiated. It feels authentic. And this is a great lead into my next question about successful brands. What do, in addition to build on what you just said, what do the most successful brands in the space now do right? And what have been the keys to the growth of your portfolio of brands at consumer and retail? It's like, what are people doing? Is it these experiences? Is it platforms? Is it there? It just seems like there's a lot that can go wrong and a lot can go right.
Yeah, it's very true. A lot of what we've been focusing on and we see other brands doing very well is education first. There's a lot of misinformation or lack of education around what these products are, how they work, where you can get them, why you can get them, all these different things. So that's kind of the baseline for a lot of it is education. If you can provide good education and good feedback on how to consume these products, what they're able to offer you, where you can find them even at a base level, that does really well to engage the consumer and then bring them back. And then it's like everything else. It's engaging content, it's activating in live experiences, because with beverage, the saying is always liquid to lips. You have to try the product. It's trialing. It's the biggest thing you can do. And as much as you can do it online and you can use paid advertising, which a lot of brands have done successfully with direct to consumer, that's also shifting. Traditionally alcoholic beverages don't offer direct to consumer because they're restricted. We're seeing some of those restrictions happening now. Not necessarily the best thing, at least from our perspective, for consumer access and choice, but good for distributors and retailers who want you to go into their stores or buy through the channels that they control. So there's definitely a balance there. But the brands that are being successful are finding their mix. Did they start direct to consumer, and have they targeted their audience and figured out who their audience is and then doubled down on that and created that stickiness? they're doing really well. Other brands started in retail and they're able to really get in and do a lot of trial and a lot of sampling in store and build that experience one-to-one with the customer, and then it's spreading that way. So it really depends. We're doing a little bit of both right now. We haven't pushed really heavy in either direction because it's still very early and we want to see what is going to work before we really push aggressively into market to share the product more widely. And so, we're available. It's over 30 plus states direct to consumer. It's about 7 states in retail. And then we have a great partnership with DoorDash, which brings us to, roughly 55 plus, major markets that we can engage our audience in a convenient way. And so that's a really great benefit to engage, is finding the channels that work, sharing the products and educating on them, and giving them something to want to come back for in quality liquid.
And this idea of education, are through any of these platforms that are working in distribution channels, where are you implementing education? John Halper, the CEO of Top 10 Liquors, one of the top chains in the space, was quoted as saying there is a direct link between education and the actual growth of the category. There's like actual correlation so that customers can navigate these THC products safely and confidently. So where do you put some of that education?
So it's definitely in retail as best you can, shelf talkers, sampling, the little handouts you can do, things of that nature. And that's that one-on-one type scenario. What you're seeing some brands do is in a digital strategy and a content strategy, share that more widely, or also in live experiences. So what we plan to do, a lot of that is around content. And when you start to see these products showing up in mainstream content, in mainstream environments, that's the point we can then start to educate and create that awareness of, okay, this is a normalized product. Let's talk about it. What does it actually mean? Because that's the prompt to then go in and understand it more deeply. And so you need your FAQs on the website. You need your content talking about it, your paid advertising talking about it too. But you still need to see it in content, which is what we consume, or entertainment, which is what we consume, and in generally the news cycle, be it, you're getting your news on TikTok or Instagram, or you're getting it through other media, channels. It's really content that's going to help to educate. And it could be very serious content from a medical or scientific perspective, or through comedy, which provides some levity to about difficult topics. So it is the range of everything, inclusive of music as an art form, which can span many genres, demographics. These are all tools for education. And that's what we're going to be focusing on as we continue to build these brands.
So are you in the wellness space? Are you in the cannabis space? Are you in the hospitality space? Are you in the entertainment space? Or is it all of them? Can you speak to all that?
Yes. So I kind of root everything and frame everything in hospitality, because that's how I've been raised. That's what I believe in. It's our ability to give care and to give. And so that's hospitality at its core. And whether it's a product or a service or an experience, how our brands are showing up, that's purely hospitality. The business side of selling something in a consumer packaged good, that's the business side of it. But still, to me, it is always rooted in hospitality, whether you're showing up in a music venue, at a restaurant, at a hotel, or on a retail shelf. How you present that, what you put on your packaging, how you message something, all of it has a very important element of touch. How am I touching and engaging with a consumer? Which again comes back to the care and the consideration for that consumer, and that is all hospitality.
No, that's fascinating that you're pinning it to that. And speaking of this cared for and this also plus experience, let's talk about your newest brand, Klaus, the ready-to-drink functional beverage you created with the legendary mixologist Warren Bobrow. 10 years ago, coming out with a book, the people are like, who is this guy? And now they're like, oh, I really want to work with this guy. And is this kind of the first artisanal brand in the space? And what makes this different? I'm really intrigued, because I can see going into a really nice high-end bar and ordering something like this?
Yeah, that's exactly how we wanted to bring that to market. Warren brings a lifetime of experience traveling the world and experience fine things and understanding the importance of quality ingredients. And even when he was behind the stick as a bartender, it's how can you put the best quality ingredients into that glass that you're crafting for that guest on the other side of the bar. And so we just did the same thing and brought that into an RTD experience, artisanal craft, which shows the care and the consideration, the love for not just the format of the beverage, but also what we're giving to that and sharing with that consumer. So it is absolutely that. It is certainly something that is crafted for that experience in a really nice restaurant over really nice, rocks in a rocks glass and poured, and just really the way that we want people to experience something and experience that care. That's exactly what Klaus represents.
I mean, I can basically taste it. I feel like the sound effect should be kicking in right about now. So let's talk about trends in the future, Evan. There's this dosage debate, we'll put in quotes, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, 50. What is that all about? And then what formats do you think are really exploding or on the way? Is it ready to drink, this RTD? Is it the on the go pocket size mixable powders? Is it what you're doing with Klaus? Is it cocktail inspired? But let's start with this. What is this dosage? Are we going, all out? Are we doing lower? Or what's going on?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, and it's one that we continue to have because regulations are being framed around this. What is a low potency or low dose versus a high potency, high dose? And what we're looking at, and as part of the Cannabis Beverage Association, which is now morphed into the Coalition for Adult Beverage Alternatives, we're looking at low doses anything less than 10 milligrams. And we can talk about why. Ultimately, what you're looking at is a similar experience that is cognizant of the impact to the guest and the customer in a safe way. So when you're introducing a new consumer to something, you don't want them to have too much of it. That's a really bad experience and potentially unsafe for them. Be it not physically harmful, but they could get very concerned. They can have anxiety around it, whatever that may be. So a low dose, really low dose sessionable drink is anywhere between 2.5 to 3 milligrams. Some people go up to 5. What we're seeing in retail, interestingly enough, is 10 milligrams is selling at 80% of the market. So all these other low dose beverages, and they're all great, all different formats, and we've had from 3 milligrams up to 10 milligrams in retail is what's selling the most, because not necessarily where all consumers want to be, but a lot of the consumers going to these channels may have previously gone into dispensaries or may have already been experienced consumers. They're looking for more of the value equation as well, not just the potency and the quality of that drink.
It's private, and then they can make 2 or 3 beverages potentially out of that if they bring it home, if I'm understanding that.
Yeah, and that's more in like the ready to drink format, the convenience format. We're also seeing the multi-serve, which is going to be more that 750 bottle or some other version of a bottle, which you'll have 5 milligrams per serving, and you can create your own mixology. There's that format as well. And I think that extends to your question, like, where do these live? Well, if you have a 50 milligram or 100 milligram drink, which is for someone a single serving, that's not the norm for the vast majority, I would say 99% of consumers. That's a very small subset of a consumer, or the total addressable audience of consumers. So we also want to be careful to say who's experiencing these products right now is actually not our consumer of the future per se. You're going to find more people drinking lower potency products over a longer period of time and sessioning that like a beer drinker would. So when you're looking at a 5 milligram THC drink versus a 10 milligram THC drink, I like it to like a double IPA compared to a regular beer. So you kind of know, and you can frame, okay, this is double the alcohol content of a single beer. I get that. When you're looking at shots and spirits, that's where that multi-serve model makes sense. And you can either use that in mixology, and there are a lot of great brands doing that now, and that gives the host of an event or the bartender mixologist the chance to create And that's really unique, different from, hey, I want to go grab this. I'm going to a party or I'm going to a venue or whatever it is, and I want convenience. That's the ready to drink can.
The new 6-pack, the new I'm bringing a 4-pack or I'm bringing a 6-pack.
It might be the on the go. It might
or
be
a bottle.
Powder. It might be something I'm going to pour into water, or a shot that I want to pour in as a beverage enhancer. I look at it very broadly, and I look at what the trends or consistent models are in beverage in general. Ready to drink is a huge category. Convenience is a huge category. We're seeing that as retailers put in refrigerators and coolers. I can grab something and drink it on the spot versus I have to go get a case. I have to bring it home. I have to put it in the refrigerator. It's a different dynamic, but all of them have a place. So when I think about this all, and this is how I started thinking back in 2018, what's on your back bar? Hundreds of options of multi-serve spirits. You also have coolers of all different types of beer. You have anywhere from 2 to 50 beers on tap. It's options and it's choice for consumers. So I see those beverage enhancers. I see the canned drinks, be it soda, seltzer, cocktail, whatever it is. And I see the multi-serve all having their space, similar to what we see in traditional beverage alcohol and functional beverages, be it energy or otherwise. Which one's going to win out and be the highest category? That's a great question. I don't have that answer, but I would say it's going to look more like what we see today. And we do see a lot of those convenience form factors rather than multi-serve you have to then create. That's more of the hospitality experience in a bar restaurant. But at home, not many people are doing mixology at home. Maybe they are because they want a higher potency drink, and that's great. But a lot of times it's convenience, something that's on the go.
That's true. Those are incredibly valuable insights, Evan. So you talked about regulation. What's happening from a regulatory standpoint? It seems that this category is at a very important point in the regulatory timing of the category.
Yeah. So similar to regulated cannabis, hemp is having its moment of certain state regulators focusing on fear and focusing on things that just quite are not true and have not actually been borne out in data or in reality. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And again, the debate around that, we'd have to go into a whole other session. So I'm not going to go too far down there. But what we're seeing is certain state regulators are looking at this saying, it's here, it is not going anywhere. How do we make sure it is regulated, it is safe, and we can generate some tax dollars off of it to support that process and structure? So certain states are looking at the alcohol model and saying, okay, it's an intoxicating product or whatever you want to frame it as. How do we regulate that? Well, we have a regulatory framework already, 21 plus, certain limitations on size or what you can purchase in a certain visit, things of that nature. That's happening in states like Minnesota and Tennessee and Georgia and others. And the markets are performing very well with very little, if any, adverse effects to the model. And so that's what we're seeing. And then we're seeing other states with outright bans. California is one of them. Texas is, I would say, toying with it, but I think they're more than just toying with an outright ban, which is to make people criminals again for consuming products that they've always been consuming and eliminating hundreds of thousands of jobs, billions of dollars in economic development for the state. And for what real benefit? Really none. Rather than a sensible approach to say this is not going away. We don't want criminal elements or illicit elements to take over, which means no testing, no controls, anyone can have it. You want to have some sense of structure and control. And so the regulation is something that we've been asking for as a group. We've been organizing around principles of self-regulation, although we don't have the resources to really self-regulate. We don't have billions of dollars to go in and implement that. But the brands that are taking the leadership positions and the suppliers are doing that. We're creating consistency. We're testing every product. We're showing COAs on our sites so that we do have some sense of a regulatory framework as states decide to put them in play. But it's challenging. It's patchwork. It's really difficult for brands because we need different packaging with different labeling in almost every single market that we're in.
That's wild.
With different potency limitations. So it's a throttle to the development of the market. And regardless of that throttle, we already know this is the future of social consumption, be it in hemp or cannabis, or really broader functional. And I look at other psychoactives and adaptogens. How we get there, that's going to be the path we have to navigate, and doing so diligently and passionately with purpose and intent is how we're going to make sure this has longevity and viability in a way that if we just rush and we try and make money and we try and slap things out there like a lot of brands are, we're going to get regulated away, and there's going to be good reason for it. So we're trying to make sure that in these regulatory conversations, we're showing that we are good stewards of products that consumers are demanding, and we see that in the numbers that they're demanding, and that they're able to get them in safe, healthy, convenient ways.
Evan, that sounds like optimism. Am I right?
I look at it as realism.
Or are you cautious? Is it realistic? I mean, it's the good actors like yourselves want this.
Yes, it's cautiously optimistic, but also it's realist. I mean, at some point we learn our lessons from banning things. It does not work at all in any format, and it never has. It's just created other elements of destructive forces in our society. So why continue to do that? And there are reasons why people want to still do that. I mean, we're living in some of that moment right now. So it's not to say that, we're seeing all around us, people like to control others. And unfortunately, that's just how a social construct is. It's not how it has to be. Maybe that's a little bit too optimistic, but it is how it is. But reality is, and, I can look at this in a couple ways, but when there's money to be made, people in power enjoy setting the table for how they can be part of making that money. And so that's what we're seeing now. For a long time, there wasn't clarity around how big could this be. Well, now we're seeing that. We're seeing how big it can be,
right,
even within all the constraints that we have. So now that optimism is saying, well, if we see it, the groups that may not have been so supportive are now behind it. What's the structure? So it's going to take time, no doubt about it. Like everything else that is a social construct, it will take time, and it is taking time. How we regulate, where the taxes are placed, all those things are going to be nuanced, and they're going to change, and they're going to continue to ebb and flow. I mean, even with alcohol, there are restrictions different from wine and spirits and beer in every single state and in almost every single county. So that's been around for 100 plus years. And again, all of these have been around for civilization, thousands of years, but in a regulatory framework and in a structure, they're going to take time. So I'm very optimistic because I know with the intention, these products can improve people's lives. And so if that's really where we're going to find the pathway to do that.
That's a great answer, Evan. I have two more quasi personal questions, then we'll wrap up. What has been the key to your success?
Oh, that's a good question, depending on who I'm answering it for. I think it's passion, purpose, and hard-headedness.
I like the hard-headed piece.
The ability to not give up because someone else says you should not be doing this, or it's never going to work, or you're going down the wrong path. That's a really challenging thing to hear day in and day out. And I've heard it for a decade now or more since I've been in the space. That's really difficult. And that's really what entrepreneurialism is all about. It's knowing that there is a path to do something, and it's being true to who you are. And for me, it's always been that purpose and intent to help others, show care and provide care. And that's really why I keep doing this, because I know there's a path. And if you just bring people along and you do it in a way that's respectful and shows empathy and compassion, you're going to get there at some point. So to me, that's been the key factor for me. A lot of people around me might tell me to stop for financial reasons because it's just not there yet, or it's not stable enough, which it is not. I know all those things. And that's the hard part about entrepreneurialism is it is almost never stable until you have that hugely successful exit or enough experience behind you to say, okay, financially it's stable, but maybe regulatorily it's not. Well, I could work through that. Right now it's a little bit of everything. So it's Is it something that I care enough about to never give up? And if that's to help people, then I care enough to never give up doing that.
That's a beautiful answer. So our closing question here, it's kind of our mini podcast tradition. How do you invite luxury into your life? What does it mean to you? Is it experiences, more free time, travel, products you love, creative art? How do you invite luxury into your life, Evan?
Yeah, it's a great question because it's, people define things in a certain way that's unique to them. What does luxury actually mean, right? Is it an extra hour in my day to spend time with my kids? Is it a chance to go to a gallery and experience something that someone else put their heart and soul into as a creative expression? It is really all of the above. It's one thing that my experience in cannabis and plant medicine has allowed me to do is bring in all these different cultural elements, using art as a form to express oneself and creativity as a form to express oneself has been part of my definition of luxury, which is that experience, not just for myself, with others, my family, my extended family, my community, my friends. It's having all of that time with them and enjoying the things that we enjoy. That might be someone bringing a drink over to you poolside. It might be going on a hike and having that moment to just breathe in the air and see the vastness of the small little piece of this earth that we're touching. To me, that's the luxury that I've always embedded in my life and that this is allowing me to continue. And so the future of that is more of, I would say the same, but more of those unique experiences to share in a much more intentional way. There's a lot of noise around, a lot of things bombarding me every single day and others every single day. And it's really focusing on the things that matter, the parts that I can share with my kids and help them to raise them, with my wife and my family and my community. And it's those things for me to sit down every day and say, I enjoyed this day, and here are the reasons why, to be grateful for every moment that I have with the people that I care about and the community that I build. To me, that's luxury. It's not necessarily, fine china or, a silver plated this or that, or sitting on a yacht somewhere. Those are nice things too, and they really are. But I'd be just as happy as a rowboat down a river, if it's with people that I care about or in a beautiful environment. That's luxury to me.
Incredible answer. And thank you, Evan Enneman, founder and CEO of Harmony Craft Beverages, for your time. I learned so much. I can't wait for this to come out and our listeners to really dig into this. It's been a great conversation, and look forward to catching up again.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you do, bringing this conversation to the masses.
We're already on to interview number 4. I'm really excited about this next interview with the great Brianna Neff, founder and chief food scientist of Brelixi, who way back in 2023 may just have created the portable on-the-go drink mix and functional mocktail trend that everyone is talking about right now. This is a great one. Hope you enjoy. It is my pleasure to welcome Brianna Neff, founder and chief food scientist of Brelixi, to the Luxury Meats podcast. Brianna launched her brand at one of our previous LMCC events way back in 2023. Our attendees went wild for it and the innovative ready-to-mix format. She's now also the driving force behind R&D and product development firm Brelixi Wellness Solutions. Brelixi is truly one of the very first on-the-go, fast-acting cannabis wellness drink mixes and supplement powders in the industry. And there's more. A certified food scientist and wellness advocate featured in a slew of best of lists in Esquire, Essence, and many others. Brianna is a Cornell University alumna with a BS in food science and technology and has previously worked with industry leaders such as Danone, Evian, and Daily Harvest. I'm also excited to share that Brianna will be demonstrating one of her favorite recipes, a quote, functional mocktail that you can make at home. Brianna, welcome to the Luxury Meats podcast, Beverage Superstars edition, because you are a beverage superstar and so much more. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for that amazing intro. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited to be here and talk more about the cannabis scene, the functional beverage scene, and all the things.
Well, it's great. I'm so glad you're here. So we love beginnings. We love starts. Founding is hard, or is it? What is Brelixi? what was your personal aha moment that sparked the creation of this brand, coming from this really huge corporate background where the light bulb went off and you're like, I have to do this in this way?
Well, that's a great question. So firstly, Relixi is where fast-acting cannabis meets functional ingredients in a very convenient and healthy manner. So we launched our drink mix sticks, and then we also expanded our collection to also have a flavorless supplement powder in a jar that adds to your bar cart, your kitchen cart, what have you, because it can add to food and drinks and all the things. So all of our ingredients have the nano-emulsified cannabis. It, has an increased bioavailability and has a rapid onset time of 5 to 15 minutes. So that was a really, huge motivator for me, being that in the edible space, you mostly see, longer onset times of 45 plus minutes. I often see on the back of edible packaging, like, consume and wait 1 to 2 hours and then, then make your decision if you want to consume more or less. And I just find that to be not that, number one, approachable, but also realistic in the world that we're living in. We want something with a quick feedback loop. That's why people love coffee, for example. So I wanted something that was more, bioavailable, number one. And that's when I discovered nano cannabis. I was really in love with the format and, again, the benefits. So I wanted to develop a product like that. And looking into the edibles market, I was pretty surprised to see that there were not a lot of options that were discreet, convenient, healthy, and consistent in terms of quality. There was a lot of misleading ingredients and products out there that I'm sure that most consumers aren't that familiar with. And because of my background in food science, I was able to understand that, okay, this edible says that it's uplifting and it's a drink and it's supposed to have cannabis to uplift me as a functional ingredient. But as I'm looking on the back of the label, I see that there's a lot of caffeine and taurine and other stimulants in there where that wasn't really made apparent in the beginning or in the front of the packaging. Or you see melatonin included in some sleep gummies where they don't really tell you that it's melatonin forward. It's mostly CBD and CBN, but they have these other functional ingredients in there that sometimes, could mislead the consumer to think that it's all cannabis. So I wanted to make something that was, number one, convenient and healthy. All of our products have organic fruit juice powders and really, highly effective ingredients when it comes to antioxidants and inflammatories, as well as adaptogens and nootropics. And also the convenience factor, right? We launched with the drink mix stick. It's developed to just put in your pocket. And I honestly came up with the idea when I was out one summer. It was super hot. I live in New York City, went to a concert outside, and it was during a heat wave. I was just totally dehydrated and I wanted to, take a break, have some water, and smoke a J. And when I got to the concert, they actually removed all of my J's, even though it is legal to consume marijuana in New York City. This venue didn't allow the entry of that. And so my plan of, my perfectly rolled J's to have a smoke break with, I was denied that type of opportunity. And so when I was there just hot and trying to get water, I just realized wow, it would be so convenient if I could get, elevated with cannabis, but also get hydrated at the same time. So that's how Relixi was kind of developed or started my mind thinking that, is because we have, electrolytes, all of these functional ingredients in the drink mix stick, as well as cannabis, either the THC or CBD, depending on your vibe, to get you elevated or relaxed.
No, that's great. You're like, never again am I going to go through this. You arguably helped develop and create this subcategory for our audience, which goes well beyond cannabis globally. What does bioavailable mean?
Simply, it just means that the active ingredient or functional ingredient is more concentrated or, let's say, used in your cells. So there's a lot of, let's say, different types of magnesium out there that aren't bioavailable. That means it just kind of goes to waste in our system. We consume it, but it's not active. It's not as active as it could be. And a lot of the milligrams just goes out of the body. Now, when you activate it or increase the bioavailability, that means that it's able to go into the blood cells, into the bloodstream, quicker than with a lower bioavailability, which then means that you're able to feel the benefits better, quicker, and more efficaciously.
And since we are a wellness, business meets wellness audience, Is this meant to integrate into our daily wellness routine? Is the goal to destigmatize cannabis wellness? What is your why for this? And who do you see your target audience or your current audience? Is it a mainstream? Is it pure THC? Is this something bigger, which it seems like it is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I intentionally curated it to be part of your daily wellness routine. So whether you want to eliminate anxiety, whether you want to wind down after a highly stressful day, whether you want to prepare for a podcast interview or a speaker meeting, or an interview in general, or whether you want to be uplifted and energized, I wanted this to be an option where it has cannabis as a functional ingredient, but also layered and packed with other powerful active ingredients so that you can, elevate and enjoy your day. So that's why with our drink mix sticks, we first created them because of the convenient nature, your back pocket buddy, really easy to mix it into any 8-ounce bottle of water or coconut water or what have you to make your own infused lemonades right there. We also expanded to have a flavorless functional supplement powder. So we removed all of the flavors, we kept the functional ingredients and the cannabinoids, and we made it a flavorless powder that's water soluble, and you're able to add it to your foods and drink. It's heat stable. So that also is a part of the wellness routine that if you want to amplify your smoothies or your soups or your baked goods in a precisely dosed manner, we can do that for you with our convenient functional blends.
No, it's so huge because we talk about the non-alcoholic beverage movement. We're talking about the functional beverage movement. We're talking about the infused THC beverage movement. And it's overtaking a lot of bev and alcohol sales. It's growing fast. So it's not, it seems like you're hitting all these notes. And would you say your audience, is it mostly women? Is it younger, or is it that based on requiring more education and awareness? Because it seems like a pretty mainstream product and easy to use and take with you on the go.
Yeah, I would say it hits a lot of different consumer types, which is amazing. We hit the sober curious or the alcohol alternative crowd, those that want to be more health-minded and consciously consuming whatever is in their body. And so we hit those types of people, as well as those who are new to cannabis because of our discreet nature, right? You're not having to light something up or have a lot of, of the cannabis smell, which can be off-putting to some, especially in certain environments. We're able to offer be approachable for those types of crowds. So we like to call them the canna moms, the moms that are looking for a more holistic, stress-free, anxiety-free product and don't want to rely on other, medications or pharmaceuticals and are new to cannabis. They try an ingestible or a cannabis drink and really helps them to moderate their lifestyle and their anxieties in that way, as well as the seniors, that type of population, because of obviously the pain eliminating nature and the discrete form factor. We're able to approach that generation as well. But I would say in general, it is the health conscious consumer that we're really abiding to. And because of that, we're not only in dispensaries or hemp retailers, we're in spas, we're in apothecaries, we're in bath stores, we're in co-ops, specialty food stores. So again, it's mostly functional ingredients, and cannabis is one of those.
That's fascinating. And taking a step back, your professional background, and I think this is a big differentiator for your brand as well, is as a top certified food scientist, having worked with all these big players. What exactly does a food scientist do, and what skills and expertise do you apply to your own brand, Berlixi, from that?
Yeah. So as a food scientist, it's really fascinating because there's a lot in the world of food scientists. So there's, I would say, different pathways you can take. You can be a flavorist. You can be a process engineer helping with scaling at the manufacturing site. You can be a product developer. You can be a FDA, regulatory compliance officer. So these are all different, let's say pathways in food science, which I found super fascinating. And I was really fortunate enough to walk on all of these paths during my time before I got to Berlixi, which is a real, benefit and obviously advantage as to me being a founder of a wellness type of brand. So I not only formulated the product myself, I also, reviewed all of the regulatory compliance language. I had a lot of experience sitting in the legal team at Dannon and Evian doing exactly that, reviewing consumer-facing labels, as well as, helping with the commercialization and the manufacturing. So because I provide the formulas, I also source the ingredients, source the packaging, and just sent all of that to my co-packer, who I also vetted out and made sure that they were able to do high quality production. So I was, kind of a one-stop shop for figuring out how to provide and develop a product from idea all the way to finished product. That is my expertise. And that is what I was doing for other brands. So having all of that knowledge was obviously extremely advantageous for a small bootstrap startup when we launched.
And as a food scientist, what is your take on our food system? This could be several hour separate conversation. What is your take on the food system, our food system? And what is the wildest thing you've seen that people do need to know about?
So, while I was studying food science at Cornell, we had a really great understanding of, the regulations and the requirements and the protocols that goes into, a safe and high quality food item. But being in the actual industry and actually abiding by the FDA regulations and the USDA regulations, it is extremely surprising to see how limiting they are. FDA has less requirements and protocols than other countries when it comes to product manufacturing or what they allow as an approved ingredient or a generally recognized as safe ingredient. So that's something I would say is super surprising is the lack of vetting out and quality checks that the manufacturers actually are required to do. So that's why I like to take a hold of that and do it myself to make sure everything, again, is something that I would feel safe putting into my body. And that's why when I was doing my market research and looking at other edible products, it was really surprising to see the ingredient statements, because I know that some of those ingredients are not sourced from a high quality place and are just a lower quality commodity item. When it comes to the FDA, it's interesting right now, and the government and what's happening right now in our American society. People are now kind of more focused on the ingredients, but also more focused on exactly what it takes to get approved. And I feel like there's now, because of that, pressure on the FDA and the government in general. So hopefully we see some changes in the near future. But as a food scientist, I try not to scare my friends sometimes with the things that they're consuming or the things that are in the store, because if you honestly take some time and look at the back of the package, it could be pretty surprising.
Wow. And speaking of marketing and audience, what has been the most successful way that you've marketed the brand, getting the word out there, driving sales? Is it trialing? Is it events? Is it the need to scale education? What has been the most effective for you?
So because we've had to be creative as a bootstrapped company when it comes to marketing, we didn't go the traditional route of, paid ads, for example. So we did a lot of offline marketing. Being in New York City, we had that amazing blessing of having a lot of events and networking opportunities and conferences and shows that we can be at and display our product at. And then in that same time, we can then engage with the customer one-on-one and do that type of really expensive marketing, which is education. But the fact that we're able to speak to them, especially from the founder or from the team directly to the customer, we found that to be extremely effective. So we try to do that as much as possible. It takes a lot of effort on our end. We're only a 2-person team, myself and my co-founder. But we find that to be highly effective because as I've learned, marketing, it just takes at least 3 times for a person to be exposed to a brand to then remember it in their psyche. So the more that you just put the brand Berlixi in someone's face, just even if it's a table or a poster from far away at a certain event, it really does make a huge difference. And I would say after my first summer, we launched in late May of 2023 at Luxury Museum.
I remember it well.
And then from there, we had a whole summer to kind of be outside and market the product at certain, markets and events. And at the end of summer was the first time where people were like, oh, I've heard of Berlixi. I know Berlixi. Why do I know that name? I can't exactly tell you what it is, but I remember that name. It looks familiar. So it was pretty surprising and rewarding to hear that. And we still kind of reap those fruits of labor, let's say.
No, that's great feedback. And as a founder of a, bootstrap company, startup, we'll say, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome and you do need to overcome in building Berlixi? Is it raising capital? Is it being a two-person team? What are some of these challenges and how have you overcome them or plan to overcome them?
A large challenge being a startup is that we're in the cannabis space, right? And so that brings us a lot of risk. And then with risk, there's less opportunities than other non-cannabis startups are offered in America. So for example, small business loans and just simple corporate credit card things, we're not even allowed these type of opportunities or not as extensive as opportunities as non-cannabis startups. So that was a pretty shocking and interesting thing to learn. Even though we are hemp and not marijuana, we're not, restricted by those same laws. We're federally Farm Bill compliant. We still were viewed as a highly risk forward type of company where we were afforded most of the fundraising eligibilities as well as loan eligibilities. So from a capital raising perspective, that was very challenging. And we kind of still face that challenge today. We've been fundraising for 12 months now, and usually it's about 6 months of raising, then a startup usually gets capital. But I think just because of the nature of our business, it's just taking a little bit longer to find those exact players. But yeah, we're very hopeful and optimistic, and we still have really engaging conversations with investors, and hopefully something closes very soon as we're kind of nearing some investment proposals, which is exciting.
Great. I mean, the product is amazing. So let's take a look at the future and trends. What does the future look like for Berlixi? And then I'll get into pick your brain on some product and culture trends.
So for Berlixi, the retail line, we foresee ourselves just, basically launching with more innovative flavors and format types, as well as functionalities. So to your point, we'll get into the different trends, functional trends that I'm seeing coming up. We want to definitely be one of the first ones to target those and to offer those type of, again, convenient, healthy solutions to those people who want those types of benefits. In addition to that, as Berlixi has been existing for we're going to celebrate our 2-year anniversary soon in the next few weeks. We've recently expanded to also be a consultancy. So under Berlixi Wellness Solutions, we're now a consultancy where we help cannabis and non-cannabis, basically anything wellness related industry, product development, packaging sourcing, ingredient sourcing, commercialization help, co-man help, regulatory compliance, all of the things we can help our wellness clients, with those different services. So we actually, since we launched our consultancy focused on wellness, we actually have a offering in airport lounges. If you go to Las Vegas and you're in the airport and you go to the lounge, you'll see our flavorless drink boosters on the menu. It's non-cannabis, it's all functional. It's functional, flavorless boosters that you can add to any drink, your cocktail, your mocktail, your juice, and you'll get that type of functional benefit, whether it's, relaxing, energizing, hydrating, what have you. So we intend to do that for more clients and also just for, larger wellness type of folks where you want to get more into functional ingredients. We see that the functional mocktail movement is buzzing. It's growing like really, really quickly. It's kind of scaring a lot of, shareholders in the big alcohol space, let's say. So we want to definitely be on that movement and add functional benefits to mocktails that are just, let's say, without any functionals.
So you've heard it here, I think first, functional mocktails is happening, and keep an eye. I mean, I see it all the time as well. What percentage of your business is direct to consumer, D2C, versus the wholesale retail partners?
We first launched with being 80% retail, 20% online, and that quickly switched to 80% online and 20% retail. And that was due to, we had some amazing organic viral success on TikTok, where it drew a lot of attention to our online storefront. And we kind of just kept with that momentum with doing online videos on TikTok and Instagram. And then also with our online or in-person events, it's really easy to promote, to buy directly from our website, and with the organic press that we got, the Esquire, Essence, and Vice features that also really amplified our online presence. So that's kind of where we're riding right now.
Does social media continue to have impact for you in terms of awareness and sales, or is it more of random, oh, you got this viral moment? Is that something that you focus on? I mean, being in cannabis, it is challenging.
It is super challenging. Again, we're super limited and there's a lot of hurdles because of the nature of our business. And because of that, it's not something that we can depend on for sales, but it's just a great, add on if we could have it. The virality nature, it's really hard to keep that up because of the AI and all the things that you can't predict. But whenever it does happen, it's a really great, surge in our online traffic.
And this is my last question about this. Are the platforms that you are focusing on, is it Instagram and TikTok? Is it Substack? Is it, what are the handful that you do commit to?
So we do Instagram and TikTok. And then professionally, as a founder, brand founder, I focus on LinkedIn and recently Substack, because again, people really like the brand founder story as close as they can be to the founder, that they respect the brand. So we just recently launched our Substack a few months ago, and we're getting some pretty good traction there as well.
Congratulations. So we're looking at TikTok, Instagram, Substack, LinkedIn, which is very powerful for founders and businesses. So our closing question, it's kind of our mini tradition. And after this question, you're gonna treat us to this amazing recipe demo directly from your lab, which we're really excited about. But the question is, how do you invite luxury into your life? What does it mean to you? Is it experiences, more free time, travel, can be products, personal development? How do you invite luxury into your life?
I would say it's two things. So number one, time. I find time to be extremely luxurious, as well as being introspective. So I am a Reiki master myself. I'm all about meditation and being intentional with your mind, body, and spirit. So those two things I find myself to be inviting luxury into my life, with focusing on, what I can do with my time, and then also how I can be more introspective. And with both of those things, Berlixi really benefits both of those topics, because, being able to reduce your anxiety allows you to be more present and allows you to be more focused on being intentional. So all of that is kind of, going along the wellness aspect and being all curated for exactly that.
Time. Thank you so much, Brianna. We're going to, in just a couple seconds, head over to your lab for this demo. But I really want to thank you. It's been an honor speaking to you as an innovator, visionary founder in this space. Brianna Neff, founder, chief food scientist of Berlixi. She'll be giving a demo in no time. You do not want to miss this. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Before we get to Brianna's recipe demo, I wanted to thank our sponsor for today's episode, Bee's Knees Wellness again. They just launched their Beezy Snaps, which are designed with portability, customization, and fun in mind. This is a really discreet alcohol-free way to boost any beverage without the calories, cans, or hangover. Visit beesknees-wellness.com and enter code LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout. Thank you, Bee's Knees Wellness. And now for our short and extremely delicious recipe demo with Brianna Neff of Berlixi.
Hello, everyone. This is Brianna Neff, Chief Food Scientist and founder of Berlixi. And I'm here going to show you some of our products and how we can utilize it in your everyday beverages. So I picked some of my favorites, and I'm going to go through each of them so I could show you how convenient it is, how easy it is, and also how healthy and delicious it is. So first things first is our first product that we created was our Yuzu Turmeric THC-Infused lemonade. It is packed with electrolytes, adaptogens, and nootropics. And so I love it just paired with water or coconut water. It just kind of increases that natural hydration is what I like to call it. And also what's really great is that all of our products have nano cannabis. So it's a 5 to 15 minute onset time. So all you do here is, let me just do a little product packaging. It has all the instructions on the back. It has the dosage right there as well. This is a 20 milligram THC packet. It's all about knowing your dose. I find that a lot of the high tolerance crowd often gets left out in the market. So I definitely designed it for that type of crowd, as well as those who like to just moderate their dosage. So often our customers have this in about 1 to 2 servings, or you can even have it up to 4 servings. What's really great about this is that it lasts up to 7 days in the fridge once you make it. So a lot of our customers always talk about how they make it in like big batches for the holidays so their friends and family can enjoy. So that's all it is. You just put it in about 8 ounces of water to get that max flavor intensity and mix it up. And there you have it. You have a THC yuzu turmeric lemonade ready to go. Super refreshing. It has 2 different types of turmerics in there too. So it has really good anti-inflammatory benefits as well. Next is our matcha latte infusion. So I probably have this concoction or elixir every single morning. I made today a really fancy saffron matcha latte. You can kind of see the gold specks in there. Saffron is really good adaptogen. It's known for many years in the Ayurvedic community. It's really good for memory as well as like skin health benefits. So I love to add it in my milk for my daily morning matcha. And with this, I love to add our CBD or my THC powder. It all depends on the vibe that you're going for. But because I am trying to focus and kind of enable a calm, steady, calm focus flow, I love to add 2 scoops of our CBD powder right to the matcha. And what's great is that this is our flavorless CBD powder. It's just like the THC stick that you saw, but it has no flavor. It has our CBD in there and it's completely flavorless. So all I did was just add in those 2 scoops like you saw and just mixed in. And there you have it, a CBD infused functional saffron matcha latte. Delicious. And lastly is a functional mocktail. So I like to end my day with winding down with either our flavorless CBD or THC powders. Today, I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite mocktails. It's called Drome. It's just an adaptogenic functional mocktail. You can get it at any of the, liquor stores that you see or also on their website, I bet. It's a really cool, like botanical elixir, has all of these herbal notes to it. I'm just going to add it to a glass here. Just a little bit. I also like to top it with ice. And I'm going to add, I'm going to add 2 scoops of our THC flavorless powder. So every single scoop and serving is shown on the inside of the lid. It has a dosing guide, so you could always understand that every single scoop of our THC powder is 2.5 milligrams of THC. So it's very easy to follow, very easy to create any type of THC mocktail or beverage that you would like. Put in 2 scoops there, so that's 5 milligrams of THC. And I just stir it up. I'm going to get a spoon. Here you go. You just stir it, and there you go. You have an instantly infused THC, fast-acting THC, might I add, functional mocktail. So cheers.
This episode wouldn't be complete without a retailer's perspective. Can THC beverages and alcohol live side by side at retail? And should they? Well, have a listen for yourself in our interview number 5 of this mega episode. Check it out. It is my pleasure to welcome John Halper, owner and CEO of Top 10 Liquors, to the Luxury Meats Podcast Beverage Superstars edition. With 15 locations in and around Minneapolis, Minnesota, Top 10 sells beer, wine, alcohol, and of course, THC beverages. John might also unofficially be known as the godfather of THC-infused beverages at retail. John is a true retail visionary, and we're so grateful for the chance to speak with him. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much. And what a great, and I would say overstated description of me. There's a lot of people in this category who've done amazing things. I'm just one of the people who joined the journey, and there's a lot of people who've carried it from the beginning, and they've done amazing work, including people at retail. But thank you for that.
No, we appreciate your leadership. For our listeners, our audience knows some about the space, but there's a global audience as well that is not as familiar. What is Top 10 Liquors? Can you walk us through kind of a brief history of who you are and your vision and for Top 10?
Sure. So In the most traditional sense, we are a liquor store chain in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. 11 years ago, I bought 4 stores. And over that time frame, we've grown to 15 locations across Metro Twin Cities. We actually have number 16 on the way. We're finalizing our lease negotiations, so we'll formally announce it soon. But our growth is continuing. Today, I would tell you that we're not in a liquor store, but we're an adult beverage store because, the category has grown and we're doing a lot of different things. And I think liquor store isn't a bad phrase, but it limits the overall impression of what we do.
That's a great way of putting it. And one of these categories that's kind of breaking this open, which you've taken leadership on, is this THC beverage phenomenon. When did you first take notice of it, of the category? What was that moment, or were there several moments where you're like, this is a thing that's going to be real in your stores?
I can't claim being a visionary in that area. Some of it goes back to 3 years ago, a little bit more, but about 3 years ago, Minnesota created, similar to the federal loophole, a THC loophole within our law that made selling edibles legal, hemp-based edibles legal in Minnesota. Interestingly, at the time they did it, they were not legal in liquor stores because our charter and what we're allowed to sell is done by the legislator, and it has to be specific or we're not allowed to. So, the first year these edibles and beverages were allowed, you saw them in hemp stores, you saw them in hair salons, you saw them in drugstores all over the place, but liquor stores couldn't bring them in and had to wait an additional year. Little over 2 years ago, when they passed our rec dispensary law, they went back and specifically allowed liquor stores to carry these beverages. And I think, late May, the law got signed. We had all of a week of notice before we were allowed to start carrying them. And so we massively tasted a whole bunch of different products. I'm sitting in front of my conference room table, and the entire thing was full of beverages.
Wow.
And we, went through, and at the time, I would say, like most customers, we were a little afraid of what it was going to do to us, and we didn't have a lot of experience. So we spit a lot of what we tried, did the best we could to pick our initial assortment, uh, worked with Jason Dayton, um, who has Trail Magic, which is one of the leading beverages, not just in Minnesota, but across the country, to go to his facility. He was a gracious host, allowed us to bring in people, train our team. And, within a couple days after that, we were off and running on this great category, and it immediately took off in our stores.
That's amazing. So what percentage of your overall sales is currently THC beverage? I mean, it's I think you've mentioned it is growing by leaps and bounds. And what is that for you now? And what are the THC beverage formats that are flying off the shelf?
So today, in our stores that are allowed to sell it, we have one that can't sell it. It's approaching 15% of our overall business. The category is up 35 to 40% over where we were a year ago. So we're still seeing amazing, amazing growth in the category. I would note, and I think this is something we'll probably talk more about, but week over week, compared to the last couple months, we're seeing modest plateauing in the category. And so, with all the amazing growth, we're also paying attention to that, because by no means do I think we're even close to a mature category. There's huge, huge growth opportunities within it, but we're definitely seeing a little bit week over week plateauing right now, which I think is a natural thing, and we're putting in place strategies to overcome that. The other part of your question about where do we see success right now and growth in the category, and we all can go back and rely on sort of the 10 milligram beverages being the leader within our sales. And there's no question about it that we're only allowed to go to 10 milligram per can in Minnesota. And that is absolutely leading our overall business. Um, but beyond that, unique form factors are starting to kick in a huge way. So we carry a number of items that some of them I like to call make your own THC beverage. They're THC that has no flavor, that typically 5 to 10 milligrams. You can create your own beverage, pick whatever you like to drink. If you love Diet Coke and you want to add THC to it, you can, and it's not going to change the flavor. So you can drink your Diet Coke the same way if that's what you want to do. Interestingly, I like Body Armor Lights. They're low calorie, they're refreshing.
See, that's the individual, the more portable rip a packet of powder type format is what you're talking about. Like take it to a concert, it's very like personalized.
Exactly. And we're seeing a lot of growth in that area. It's been really, really positive for us. We're launching a bunch of new brands in that area right now, really trying to build that part of the market because I think for a lot of people, it's how they're going to want to engage in this category in the long run. We're leaning into functionality. The functional side of it will be amazing for our customers. It's just going to take a lot of work to make sure our staff is well educated and the customer base is well educated. But in the long run, I think the functionality will be tremendously important as people look at sleep, energy, relaxation, all these buzzwords. And, whether it's a beverage or an edible that directly targets that, being able to use them. So I think that's an area that we expect to see a lot more growth. And interestingly, 2 years ago and solidly the first year and a half, I would tell you that the edible part of the category was slow. It's a little bit more challenging in Minnesota because beverages can be in the cooler or on the floor, but edibles need to be locked up behind the counter. So it's harder to market them. But we've seen amazing, amazing growth within the edible part of our business. So I'm really, really encouraged by that. And I think the form factor people are aggressively continuing to buy, and we're seeing massive growth in are the shots. Typically, they're 10 milligram shots that are reasonably affordable. So, you're not committed to a huge beverage. You're just sort of doing the shot like you do a 5 hour energy. And those are driving a lot of success for us.
That's fascinating. So is your customer buying these gummies, form factor, and THC and alcohol? It's a bigger question of how does alcohol, beer, wine sit alongside this THC beverage category in your store? What is that looking like? What is the impact of those living together?
Well, I think that, as a retailer and also as a consumer, I think it's the ultimate because, you know, and NA is a separate category, is a slight difference in this sense, but whether you're having alcohol or THC, it is a mood altering substance. So, for consumers to be able to come into a place, whether you want to get alcohol or you want to get THC or you want to buy both in your basket, I think we create the best opportunity to be able to do that. And that doesn't take away from dispensaries and what they do or other alternative ways to buy the product. I think they're all great too. But I think adult beverage stores or liquor stores offer this environment where you're able to do them all together. And we get customers that come in who only buy alcohol. We get customers that come in that only buy THC. And we get, I would say, a significant portion of the people who are buying THC, they're in baskets combined with alcohol. So you're really seeing both contribute to driving business overall.
That's fascinating. Some of the founders I've interviewed, they say it's not either or. It's this combination that contributes to how you want to socialize and how you want to imbibe. And you've been quoted as saying customers love buying THC beverages where they buy alcohol because it is this very familiar setting. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't create the rules on how dispensaries operate. And certainly federally, we're all very supportive of federal legalization of all cannabis, not just hemp, but all cannabis eventually. But the majority of dispensaries you go into, they're carding you a couple times at least as part of your transaction. You need to pay with cash. Um, it's a one-on-one type of transaction. So you have to wait for your bud tender to be ready for you, and it's sort of a one-on-one experience, which the service side of it's amazing. But at the same time, when they're busy or when you just sort of want the freedom to walk in and shop on your own and leave, you're unable to do that. Whereas in an adult beverage store like us, you can go pick up your case of Coors Light, and you can pick up your 4-pack of Uncle Arnie's beverages, and you can walk up to our front counter. We're going to card you regardless of what you're buying, because that's what we do with every customer that comes through our store. And if you're 21 or older and you're not obviously intoxicated, and you want to pay with credit card, we'll take your credit card and complete the transaction, and you walk out. And so we're a comfortable, natural environment. And the way we approach THC is to treat it no different than how we treat alcohol, and to make it a seamless experience for our customers. And so I think people that are shopping the category and interested in it like the fact that it's not waiting in line for that one person to help you and having to pay with cash and everything else. You feel like it's a normal transaction, like you've done hundreds of times before, and not this, oh my God, I'm going to a dispensary type of experience that I think most of us feel when we go there.
That's a great answer and a great point. It's just way more frictionless to do that, and these dispensaries have so many hurdles to the customer service and retail 101 piece of it. You've been in retail for a long time, and let's talk a little retail 101. What you've onboarded a lot of new brands in your time, most recently these THC beverages. What is key to brand success in your shops? What do the best brand partnerships look like for you?
One thing I would recognize or want to say is that I think at this point in the THC edible beverage world, the onboarding experience is different than a lot of the alcohol world. And within the alcohol world, it even separates to some extent. But a lot of the alcohol brands have created tremendous buzz. And so when we bring them into our stores, frequently customers have heard about them from other states, can't wait to get them. And so they may seek them out. And so it's a lot easier so far in the alcohol world to onboard new beverages when they've been able to achieve that. You get a lot of brands we bring in the alcohol world. I would say particularly in the wine part of the business, where education, tasting, things like that, and promotion are key to them. But think about spirits and beer in particular. It really is the buzz that brings people in to buy those brands initially. And most of those brands invest mass dollars in outside marketing and things to create that type of um, environment. But tastings are still important because you may have heard about it, but you still want to try it. So whatever we're doing, I think everybody likes to call it liquid to lips, but I think it's a really important part of anyone's strategy. The THC world is definitely an evolution of that, because there's a lot of brands trying to build national brand awareness and the buzz that comes along with them. But I truly believe that this category is created in the four walls of our environment, and that brands have not achieved any major national recognition. And so it is working with a retailer to develop a solid strategy about how to get onboarded, which we're now very focused on, how to launch in an ad and with a dedicated campaign surrounding that, and what is the tasting and promotional schedule that ties to that, to make sure that people are trying these beverages. Because I've been quoted as saying this, and it's still largely true. 80% of our customer base has not tried THC beverages at all, and that's for a lot of different reasons, and we can discuss that a little bit more later. But most people walking in the door are not looking to try a THC beverage that day. And so if we can, introduce them to it, and they're open to it, they quickly see that they taste great, that they don't fall down because one sip of it made them high and they haven't been high and they haven't had that experience. It's a very manageable experience for them. And so
Right. That's the education.
that's exactly right. It's the education combined then with the tasting where they're like, oh wow, that really did taste good. I didn't taste, a bong type of taste when I was trying the beverage or something like that. It just, my cola or cream soda tasted exactly like I wanted my cola or cream soda to taste. And I really enjoyed that experience overall. And so the tasting side of it is hugely, hugely important because people don't have the brand awareness. They're not coming in, beating down our doors for a particular brand. And so we're working very directly and specifically with our partners to do a better job at helping their brands launch and have that, well articulated strategy so that we can achieve success.
So, in terms of, thank you for that, in terms of getting people into the store to try these THC brands, are they coming in for top 10 liquors? Are these brands, do they have these large email lists that they segment? Is it social? Is it boots on the ground? Is it regional ads that may or may not be compliant? What is that recipe tactically, if you can go into that slightly for the THC beverage brands that you do on board?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's some of everything you're saying. For example, every week, a brand who's local, who is in a number of states outside of Minnesota now, too, called Mini Grown, they publish where they're doing tastings. And so it's not just what we're doing, they're layering on their dedication and support with what we're doing to emphasize their product. And then we publicize it as well. So that side of it is more of a two-step approach where we're both partnering together to be able to achieve it. Um, so in that case, the brand is working with us. And certainly if you look at a brand like Breeze, who probably most people listening to this will be very familiar with it, they have an incredible amount of money they spend
Yeah.
on the social media and direct to consumer part of it, but that also plays to the success of the brand in our stores and drives people to be able to buy it. But every brand doesn't have the budget and method of spending that they do. So a lot of that happens directly in our stores. And we've got a loyalty program, and through our loyalty program, we have permission to email people. And it's a large list, and we've probably used that as our most productive tool to bring people in, educate them about the category, promote different brands within our stores, promote pricing to make it affordable for people. And we then combine that with tastings aligned with our ad schedule so that you see it in the ad, you come into the store, we make it available for you to try, and it makes it a lot easier for you to make that selection. And these we're 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 raising a new category, and there's not a playbook for most of us about how to do this in our stores. And so if you watch retail, it can be top 10 liquors, it can be total wine and spirits, it can be others. There's not a defined playbook on how to do this. And so, we've we keep trying within our stores to bring along the retail experience and bring it up to and surpass what we're doing in the liquor side of it, because it's a new category and it needs that type of support. If you think about a wine section in a store, you've got Cabernet, you've got Pinot Noir, you've got sparkling, and within sparkling, you've got champagne, you've got Prosecco, you've got, all sorts of different things like that. And if you walk into most retail, you just have a THC beverage section.
Like a wall of beverages.
That's exactly right.
Decision paralysis.
That's right. So we're working now to create subsections within THC where you'll have a seltzer section, you'll have a cola section, you'll have a can of cocktail section, you'll have a functionality section. We're labeling them to help customers navigate to know sort of, do I want flavor forward? Am I really looking for the 0 calorie? And then within the sections, we're clarifying and making it very easy to understand the THC level you get with those beverages as well. Because, we all live it and breathe it every day and we know where to look on the can, but most people walking in and looking on the shelf are looking at a sea of tons of product trying to make their decisions. And so we all need to work from a retail perspective to help them navigate it better and make it simpler. For as much as I'd love to tell you that our staff is there to meet and work with every single customer, when you're really busy, it's just not possible. So we need the shelf experience to be really well developed to help it.
I mean, you and your colleagues, retail colleagues, are creating the playbook, this blueprint. So it is really fascinating to watch. And John, I just want to take a step back into your personal story a tiny bit. I've interviewed a lot of C-suite retail executives, and the most successful, they always seem to have this incredible passion for retail that comes from somewhere, retail people, and a really interesting story about how they got into it. And you were once a buyer for Target. So what's your story? How did you get into this? This is who you are, it seems, from an outsider's point of view.
Well, sometimes my parents like to laugh at this or actually tell me that I need to pay them back for it. But I am originally an attorney. I started off as a corporate attorney in New York and then in Minneapolis. And so, they sort of laugh at the fact that a uh, corporate attorney now is a liquor store slash adult beverage store owner and driving these types of things. But, my retail career began at the kitchen table. My stepfather had been in retail his whole career. He was CEO of a company called Wilson's Leather. And that was sort of my first step into retail. My last legal deal was a leverage buyout of Wilson's Leather from their parent company, which is today CVS Drugstore. And at the end of that transaction, he said, "Why don't you come over and do real estate for us?" So I jumped over, I did real estate, eventually store operations, and that led me to Target because I had no merchandising experience, and it was sort of a crucial part of putting together, a broad retail basis. So by the time I bought the first four stores, I had worked in legal, real estate, store operations, merchandising, and had a lot of influence, if not control, over the marketing side of it. So it just created this breadth of retail experience that I had to allow me to hopefully have a better chance to succeed.
And that's a great background. And going back to the THC category on June 30th, well, basically, or a day or two ago, Texas Governor Greg Abbott vetoed a bill called SB3, which aimed to ban intoxicating hemp-derived products. This represented a huge win, maybe temporary, for the THC hemp beverage category. Even though you're in Minnesota, does that have a ripple effect for you? Were you keeping your eyes on this?
We were watching it very closely. Minnesota has been an amazing state overall for the hemp beverage category. Uh, you know, some people talk about how the category was largely created when Minnesota solidified it, and it's been amazing. And the government works with us on crafting law and everything else, and not everything's perfect, but compared to what most states have gone through and continue to go through, our state has been absolutely amazing for the category. And watching what Texas was going through, um, was incredibly concerning. It was concerning because of a lot of brands that we partner with that have invested heavily in that state and operate in that state, and concerns about what would happen to those brands, to all the people that buy from the category, work in the category, that would have been out of work or unable to get product that made their lives better. So it was a huge concern. But I think the biggest thing is, federally, we know that there are those that would like to outlaw the category, and that many, many people want to make sure that doesn't happen. And when a governor like the governor of Texas vetoes it, it gives us a lot of optimism and hope nationally and in other states that people will begin to pay more attention to the important parts of the category and not just, first of all, I think cannabis should be legal. I'm not making a statement against that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you look at it broadly, there's so many benefits from the category. And if we need to start with hemp and eventually that leads to cannabis in full being legal, it would be a great stepping stone to be able to do it. So when you look at a governor in Texas doing that, and hopefully the weight of the rest of the country looking at that, I think it was incredibly significant for all of us. And I'm not closely tied to what happens day in and day out. And I know that now they're coming back together in a special session, and there's still a lot of work to do. But it seems like it will be approached with a way to appropriately regulate the category as opposed to outlawing the category.
And is that what you see the future of the category being? What you've just said? What do you hope to see? What needs to happen? Is there anything you wanted to add to the future? What does the future look like?
It's a great question, and it's something that we ponder and think a lot about because on the one hand, I'm a free market focused person and don't want over government regulation. We don't tell somebody that they can only buy a bottle of Tito's 750 and they can't buy a 1.75 liter. And it comes down to how much of it they're going to consume, but we don't limit alcohol that way. And so when you look at the whole debate about the number of milligrams in a beverage and how it should be regulated, my initial answer to you is I don't want the government regulating it. I want it to be safe, but it shouldn't be over-regulated in that sense. The flip side of it is when you look at the risk we have as a category that we're trying to build, and if bad things happen because people don't understand the impact on them, and the scrutiny the industry will be under, appropriate regulation, I think, is very helpful to prevent that. And we all need to work together. I'll look at the broader edible side of it. I won't, which I include beverages in. I won't speak to the flower side of it. I'm not educated in that, and I don't want to venture onto that side of it. But at the same time, I think we need to make sure that we're building safety and education into how we approach this federally and state by state so that we don't have those missteps, because I do think it's a stepping stone to government understanding the safety of the category and the importance of the category and the life benefits we get from it. So if we appropriately regulate it in a way that allows innovation, creativity, and flexibility, yet safety, I think we're going to be way, way better off than without that.
That's a great answer for the business. So we have a closing question. It's a mini tradition on our podcast. We're called the Luxury Meets Podcast. So, John, how do you invite luxury into your life? What does it mean to you? Is it experiences, free time? It can be products. It can be anything that you think of. What does it mean to you? How do you bring it in?
I'll take the word luxury, and instead of focusing on luxury, I'll focus on satisfaction and relaxation and what I do for that, because I think they go hand in hand. Um, and this is a hard thing for me to admit and say, because I would have told you that 6 months ago that luxury for me would be an amazing bottle of a Napa Cab combined with a great steak with friends and enjoying that whole experience. And by the way, I still love it, but I'm 57, and as I continue to age, my relationship with alcohol is evolving. And once I commit to that bottle of wine, I'm probably not sleeping particularly well. So it's an evolution and an answer that plays into the importance of this THC category and what we're doing, because I don't have that experience with THC. It relaxes me. I sleep great. And so it's been a very different change. So luxury to me is with my wife and friends or kids, uh, doing an amazing hike in Colorado up a mountain that really pushes me to the limits, but at the same time, uh, you know, allows me to be athletic and enjoy that hike and being part of nature. So I think luxury to me is evolving as far as what that means, and nothing is better than that to me right now.
I love that answer. Thank you so much, John. Next time you all are in Minnesota and you're 21 and over, do visit Top 10 Liquors, any one of their stores, and visit their website, which is amazing, by the way, top10liquors.com, to see this incredible retailer in action. Once again, that's top10liquors.com. Thank you so much for your expertise and leadership, John. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Jed. Appreciate this.
You've made it this far. The final interview in this episode is coming up. Okay, let's not leave out alcohol because people still drink, right? These next two founders wrote the book on how to roll out a beverage brand locally first, and they also shared some of their super secret places to go in NYC. Check this out. Hope you enjoy. I am very excited to welcome these two native New Yorkers who realized that coconut water was what actually saved them from their most insidious hangovers. Jennifer Roman Matito and Christy Kish, co-founders of Mother's Milk. Coconut and vodka became their personal go-to, quote, remedy drink, which is when the light bulb went off and their brand, Mother's Milk, was born. Mother's Milk is a ready-to-drink, women, Latina, Filipina-founded beverage brand with simple, clean ingredients, now showing up at retail shops all across NYC. Jennifer is a proud Puerto Rican born and raised in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, having spent much of her career in hospitality before diving headlong into entrepreneurship. Christy Kish is an Emmy-nominated multimedia artist, also born and raised in NYC. Her work has been broadcast on Nat Geo, Sci-Fi, Nickelodeon, and in film festivals around the world. In a sea of THC-infused beverages and non-alcoholic mocktail brands, what they're doing is truly, truly brilliant and different. It is my pleasure to welcome Jennifer and Christy to the Luxury Meets podcast. Finally, yes.
Yes. Woo. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes. So I love your founder's story. The many founders I've interviewed always seem to create something that really doesn't exist yet. So what was that aha moment, that light bulb pop, when you looked at each other and were like, we have to start this brand?
So maybe I'll jump in first and kind of answer this because I think it's a really fun kind of just organic story. Basically, Christy is actually married to my husband's best friend. So her husband, Tyrone, was the best man in my wedding, and we obviously spend a lot of time together. So we were celebrating my husband's birthday one weekend upstate in the Catskills, and really we had our light bulb moment when Christy got a little bit more creative. Instead of just coconut water and vodka, she muddled a little bit of mint, muddled a little bit of fresh shiso that we had. Just mixed in the coconut water vodka and served it to me. And I literally looked at her and said, oh my God, we should can and sell this. And I think
it was
that
a true
was
light bulb moment.
Yes, a true light bulb
Wow.
moment.
That was,
I saw it above her head go bing.
I can see it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So taking that, you're drinking it, and then you say it's your, became your remedy drink. What is going forward? Now you're like, oh, we have to do this, and we're doing it, and you're doing it and succeeding. What is your mission and vision for Mother's Milk, if you can share that?
Yeah, I think piggybacking off of the story Jen was telling. So we had this light bulb moment, and our original recipe was cold pressed coconut water. So it was white and milky. And I was like, it's Mother's Milk, because we kept saying, it's giving us life. It's giving us life. We were feeling energized. We were getting super buzzed, and it was just so good. We were hydrated. And so she's like, we have to can and sell it. And I was like, oh, you're so crazy. Like, yeah, let's do it. But then as summer's over, we're back in September, the fall's here. We literally kept craving it, and we were going to bars. We partied together all the time for the past decade. And so we would go to bars, restaurants, and we'd look at each other and be like, I want our drink. Cause that was when seltzers like swept the city and the country, I guess. And even these bars starting selling canned drinks. So you saw White Claws everywhere. Everyone's drinking it in bars. We didn't want a cocktail. We didn't want a seltzer. We didn't want like liquor. We just wanted our drink. So Jen really was the one who pioneered like the urgency of, dude, there's nothing like this out there. There has to be others like us who want its own thing. It's its own thing. It's something new. And yeah, we were just like, Let's do it.
Yeah. And then we
And
also
when
kind of
was
just,
this? Oh, go ahead.
no, I
Yeah.
was just going to say, we also kind of just recognized that like what existed in the market was not what we wanted to drink. And so we made it. And really our mission was to bring forward an option for the wellness conscious drinker.
It's such a good point you're bringing up. There is a deluge of all kinds of drinks. THC infused beverages are exploding. It seems like hundreds come out every day, and the non-alcoholic mocktail brands love them all. And actually, with media and culture pointing to the demise of alcohol consumption, and in this way, you took this different, kind of brilliant, unique direction, launching Mother's Milk as a functional alcoholic beverage. Like, people still want to drink, right? I feel like this is like you own this lane now.
Yeah. I mean, I
Right.
have a very different opinion there. If you actually look at alcohol sales globally, it's still going up annually. There really hasn't necessarily been an actual pause to alcohol sales. I think what we're also looking at there from a statistical standpoint and a data standpoint is that over COVID, there was a massive spike in alcohol consumption. I mean, alcohol has been pretty consistent, and then COVID hit and we saw this really spiked increase in people at home, bored, you couldn't go far, you couldn't do much, and alcohol was easily accessible at your fingertips. What actually just happened post-COVID is we went back to normal. Alcohol consumption and trends are still consistent to what they were pre-COVID times. So outside of that, we did notice a big change in the industry. RTDs, ready to drink cocktails, is the fastest growing category in alcohol, period. People are really into the convenience factor of alcohol consumption. Canned cocktails are by far, taking over the industry in rapid numbers, and they're off-premise and on-premise demand is absolutely there. But the way I'll also kind of describe Mother's Milk is we are really uniquely positioned because naturally occurring in coconut water is hydration, electrolytes, antioxidants, vitamins. And what we saw was that there was no real options on the market that really kind of isolated our target demographic, which is the mindful drinker. People who care a little bit more about what they're putting inside of their bodies, but aren't necessarily ready to go sober, want to have a nice cocktail every so often. And the options available on the market give me hangovers and headaches and nausea rather immediately and quickly. And so we wanted something that we would call clean ingredient. And so that's why we consider ourselves along the lines of a functional beverage.
That's fascinating. Tell us about our listeners about the product. You mentioned it. It does have these electrolytes. It's coconut water. It takes that morning after like edge off. Can you describe the product as this remedy drink, what we should be feeling and tasting?
Yeah. Christy, you take it.
Okay, yeah. So it ties back to why we started drinking this in the first place. Coconut water in itself is so good for you. Nutritious, like Jen said, filled with antioxidants, minerals, vitamins. Hydration is the real key here. Especially, everyone knows that you drink, you need to hydrate. And so instead of drinking after coconut water the next morning after when you feel terrible, we started making it earlier, drinking before, during, and after. And the key, again, is hydration. So another thing about our drink is that we are 9% vodka. So we're almost double the alcohol content of a typical RTD. And that's also what we wanted. We wanted something that gets us there without drinking 4 cans. We want something strong, light, and hydrating without drinking so much liquid.
Yeah, and really our quick elevator pitch is Mother's Milk is a coconut water cocktail RTD ready to drink, simple, clean ingredient. There's no added sugars. We're naturally flavored. We're vegan friendly. We're gluten free. And we identify as a true cocktail in a can, 9% ABV vodka. So again, we looked at what existed within the market. What we wanted to drink did not. We wanted something that was more than your average seltzer, but still less than a glass of wine. We wanted something that actually had some additional benefits to the drink while it's still boozy enough to get us there. And we wanted something that honestly was helping us feel a little bit better. And so while we can never make the claim that, you're going to feel amazing the next day, because the way you process alcohol and the way I process alcohol are two very different things. What we can promise you is that scientifically speaking, there is hydration electrolytes that coexist in mother's milk.
And it's this other option for us to get together, social wellness and meeting up. And I love this as another great option. And I've asked this in one of my other interviews in this episode. You've entered a very male-dominated industry in beverage, CPG beverage, especially alcohol. I'm not seeing many women-owned brands in the CPG beverage space. Am I missing something? What's happening here? And Jennifer, I think you have a interesting story around this too.
I'll say you're not hanging out with my friends because I'm surrounded by female founders. And I think that is a bit intentional. When you get into this space, you're like a magnet. You start to kind of pull towards one another. And so, I have a friend who owns a coffee brand, female founded. We have friends who launched a mezcal brand, female founded. So we have a friend who is a partner in a fantastic hospitality group in New York City that really kind of helps run the show there. And so I do think that it exists, but nowhere near in the numbers that it should. I will say that.
Right.
We are in a very male-dominated field. And I mean from the barbacks up to the brand owners, up to the VC funders. Everyone that you speak with really, 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 it's truly, in every sense of the form, a male-dominated industry and field. I will tell you, I do see a change in the industry. But let's also add another additional layer to that. I think that a major issue here is the fact that female-founded businesses, while they statistically outperform male-founded businesses, they get less than 3% of the capital funding annually. That is a wild number when you really think about it. So I think that that's also playing a part in the fact that women just don't get to succeed because they're also not getting the opportunities to.
So I'd like to hear this story. You walked into a retailer. There is also this window of opportunity and difference and revenue for your customers working with you guys. I'd love to hear you. It was in Williamsburg, right? You walked into a retailer and he said, I'm not looking for yet another finance.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I want to give an awesome shout out to Josh, who is one of the owners of Grand Street Wines in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And we, as a young brand, really need to be particular about product placement and finding partnerships. We don't just want to work with any bar, and we don't just want to work with any liquor store. We want to work with actual partner on-premise and off-premise retailers that would allow us opportunities to, one, highlight our product, and two, really actually sample and get the community to know who we are, what we are, and where you can find us, right? That's super important to a young brand. So when we walk into a shop and High Noon is blasted everywhere, I make a quick U-turn and I'm out the door. Why? Because we're not going to get the visibility in that shop. This one shop in particular, Grand Street Wines, I happen to have more than one person recommend that we go in there. So I pop by and I'm saying, hey, maybe I'll grab the buyer, maybe I won't. But I walk into the shop and Josh just happens to be working behind the counter that day. So I start chit-chatting with him. I give him some of my product. I'm telling him about us. And he just starts literally kind of throwing questions my way. I mean, boom, 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 boom. And asking me where I'm from. What's my background? How did I start this product? All of these questions about kind of just the genesis story on me, my life, as well as Mother's Milk as a brand. And immediately after just kind of hammering him with answers right back at him, he goes, great, I'll take 5 cases. And I was like, wow, really? That easy? And he goes, I cannot deal with another finance bro coming in here with a pet project that he really wants me to sell because he lives across the street. He's like, I'm not interested in any of those products or those brands. I really actually want to focus my attention on unique local brands and products. And so we've done really well there.
That is a great story. And you've talked about this localized strategy, building a really healthy, big, potentially global brand, kind of this I love New York. You call it a zip code strategy. You've talked about it a little bit. Can you talk about what does that look like tactically for you? It is these partnerships, it's going in personally. Is it, at what point have you succeeded in your zip code strategy? I think it's a great name for it.
So I'll jump ahead to like how we've succeeded. We've had a few people on just random occurrences see us standing there sampling our product, and they'll go, I've seen this brand everywhere. And I'm like, that means it's working. We're not actually everywhere, but the zip code strategy is actually working. What that basically means is I am isolating target neighborhoods. One, that meets our target demographic, and two, that we can actually build partnerships with both on-premise, which is bars, casual eateries, restaurants, as well as off-premise, which are liquor shops. And so the goal is if we have one stronghold residential liquor shop that we can drive traffic to, where everyone can pick us up at this location in this neighborhood, then we need to surround that neighborhood with a few partner on-premise locations. So for example, Williamsburg, we have a partnership with Grand Street Wines. Within walking distance is McCarran Park House, where you can also go hang out, grab a coffee, but also grab a mother's milk. And so really isolating target neighborhoods that match our target demographic and partnering up with both on-premise and off-premise locations in that particular neighborhood or zip code.
I feel like I just got a small PhD in beverage marketing, and I'm sure our listeners too. I've actually never heard that, but it's so clear and it makes so much sense. Now, are you driving people to these on-premise, off-premise through social, email? Is it flyering? If you don't mind me sharing some of your secret sauce here.
Yeah, that's all Christy. Christy, you take that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Every account we have, like Jen said, it's super intentional, and we hold them all so dearly because they just make sense. They match, they align, we have the same audience. So it's super important for us to really put that out there. We make bespoke flyers and posts on our Instagram for each activation we have. We plug every single account in our newsletter, what we're doing that month. We try to send as much traffic to those places just in general, not say go there because Mother's Milk's there. We say go there because they're awesome. Their Caesar salad is good. Their DJs are good. Their vibe is great. Just send traffic there because that's also that's our relationship. We want to build really strong relationships with these accounts.
And that's a great answer. And that's like a leverage point. It's community building. You're just bringing so much attention to these folks. So you talked about your customer demographic. Is it more of a psychographic, the mindful drinker, or are you seeing now that you've been in business for a while, it's this age range, it's this woman, it's this person? Do you have more info on that?
So we really don't want to say it's a type of person because we actually think that there's a big change in current consumer behaviors. People are more conscious about what they're putting in their bodies more than ever. And we have the actual data and statistics that show that like the more conscious you are about what you put inside your body, the longer you live, you can fight off certain even genetic diseases and things of that nature. So people are just much more aware in this day and age of what they're putting inside of their bodies. So in the most general sense, I think our target demographic is really the mindful, conscious drinker. Goes back to what I just kept saying. People who are aware of what they're putting inside of their bodies. I do think that in the most organic sense, coconut water lovers get us immediately and they go, oh my God, where have you been all my life? I didn't know that this existed. And we're like, that's why we made it. And so I definitely think the coconut water lover is definitely our target demographic. Definitely people who are a bit more conscious about, food, drink, things that they're putting inside of their body. I do think in the most general sense, if we had to nail it down, we are more female driven. But I do think that that's going to change eventually. I think people, in particular women, get our brand and our name immediately. It connects for them. Men, we have to do a little bit more education with. They go, mother's milk, versus women who go, oh my God, mother's milk.
It's like triggering for men. They're like, oh, yeah. I can't.
Yes,
no.
yes.
But your website also, the visuals, the copy, there's a vibe to it that I think is just pulls you in, and it seems like it pulls in the right customer as well. Pulled us in to interview you. Taking a step back, you're both native New Yorkers, which is kind of like an endangered species almost.
Yeah.
Can you take us on a quick, quote, hidden tour of NYC? You're from the LES, Jennifer, Christy, you're from Queens. Like, if you were to tell a friend, like, don't tell anyone about these places, like what bars or restaurants or roller rinks would you be like, okay, but no pressure. Where would you take us first?
So
one or two places.
This is such a difficult question because there are so many hidden gems in New York City.
So many.
It's insane. But I'll start with two things that I think are just really cool. One, it's one of my favorite bars in the city. It's called Poquito. It's located in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. It is also female owned, and it is a tiny little speakeasy. They've got a few tables out front. They've got this really cool little vibe inside. You almost want to take it over and just like bring all your friends. But it's tiny, and it's this little hole in a wall place that just like is inviting and inclusive for everyone. And that's kind of my favorite part about it, is that everyone's welcome there and there's something for everyone there. That's probably one of my favorite little hidden gems that not too many people know about. Shout out to Poquito in Williamsburg. Tosh is an amazing owner, and she obviously carries Mother's Milk.
I love this. Tell when people stop in there, just say Mother's Milk sent you.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be thrilled.
Yes.
Christy, what do you have?
So 2 places immediately came to mind. I do have one spot that anyone who's from out of town, visits New York, I'm taking you here, which is honestly, everyone tosses the word speakeasy out so freely now, but this is actually a speakeasy where you have to hear the music and find the door. It's this spot under the 7 train in Jackson Heights called Sushi on Me, and it's an omakase speakeasy, a real speakeasy, where it's 10-seater and it's unlimited sake. Hard to find. You truly have to like listen for the loud music, and it's like underground. It's a shaded door. It's fantastic. It's every time I go there, it's the best. I throw birthdays there. It's a gem, truly. The second thing that immediately popped into my mind was Vacations, which is in Bushwick. It's a rooftop bar that's also, basically they're called Vacations because there's 3 areas of this bar that are different types of vacations, or 3 different destinations. So the first floor is like nautical dive bar, New England vacation.
It's the Lake Cabin Vacation.
Yes. Lake Cabin Vacation on the first floor. Second floor, you have 2 separate rooftops. One is like Miami inspired, and the other is just like, I don't know, I guess New York City.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's huge too, so it's not like feels so overwhelming, but that's a fantastic rooftop bar.
I love this intel, and I know our listeners will too. If you have to go back in this episode, listen up. What does the future hold for Mother's Milk?
Ooh, I want to say world domination. I mean, we don't necessarily want to walk in anybody else's footsteps. We want to pave our own lane. No one's doing what we're doing, and we truly feel that with some more education on our product, we can actually have massive placement, not just across the nation, but globally. I can totally see us on a beach in the Philippines. We source all of our coconut product from the Philippines, actually. But I could also see us, at a resort in Puerto Rico. I could see us, surfing with a can in San Diego, or, at some club in Miami. So ultimately, the long-term goal here is definitely market growth. It's definitely world domination, and it's definitely educating people that there are more options out there that are slightly better for you.
And that you can have it all.
Yeah,
like the combination does exist. You can have indulgence and health.
That's a great answer. And that does all sound so luxurious, which leads me to our closing question, which is our mini podcast tradition. I'll start with you, Jennifer, and then Christy. How do you invite luxury into your life? What does it mean to you? Is it experiences? Is it travel? Is it like skincare products? What is that for you?
100%. I am not into things. And I think me and Christy really align here. I'm not into stuff. Okay. Keep the bags, keep the shoes.
I hate stuff.
I just don't want stuff. I want experiences. I want to visit as many countries as I possibly can. I want to see as many concerts as I possibly can. I want to eat the most amazing meals as often as humanly possible. We are definitely kind of like luscious in that way when it comes to travel and experience and food and beverage. And I would probably say one of the biggest luxuries across the board is just quality time with the people that you love. As you can tell, I think I'm a really social person. And so I really enjoy quality time with my friends, with my family, with my community. And I would probably say that's one of the biggest underrated luxuries, period.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful. Chrissy, follow that.
For me, luxury is a martini on a boat abroad somewhere. It's a mixture. It's everything Jen said, especially travel and going out to eat. I love going out to eat with people. And I think that also ties into Mother's Milk. And I love, earlier you said that our website and our whole thing is a vibe and is an experience in itself. Our brand concept kind of came from the idea that, one, like Jen said, we're travelers. Jen and I will hop on a plane any chance we get. We want to be somewhere. We're constantly daydreaming about vacation and where to go. And we realize New York is an island too. It's a specific type of an island, but this is our kind of weird paradise. This is our island. So that's kind of also where our slogan came in, make your own, or paradise wherever you are. Because again, New York is its own paradise, truly. So yeah, I would say travel and travel.
Brilliant answers. Mother's Milk is currently available at top retailers throughout New York and New Jersey, including Astor Wines and Spirits, as well as the largest beer and wine retailer in the country, Total Wine and More. In New York and New Jersey, visit drinkmothersmilk.com and get on their email list for invites to events, hidden intel. They're going to let you know what is up, store launches, restaurants, more. Go to drinkmothersmilk.com. Thank you so much, Jennifer and Christy. I learned so much, and this is already a huge success.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. So happy to be on here.
And our Beverage Superstars episode part 2 is a wrap. Thank you again to all of my brilliant guests today. You are truly transforming how we all get together in person and socialize, and you're showing us how wellness, hospitality, and experiences all come together. Thank you to Diana Eberlane, Chair of the Coalition for Adult Beverage Alternatives and Chief External Affairs Officer at Vertosa, Caitlin Murphy, co-founder of Anytime Seltzer, Evan Enneman, co-founder and CEO of Iconic Tonics and the founder and CEO of Harmony Craft Beverages, Brianna Neff, founder and chief food scientist of Brelixi, John Halper, owner and CEO of Top 10 Liquors, and finally, Jennifer Roman Matito and Christy Kish, co-founders of Mother's Milk. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time and expertise today. And a very special thank you to these amazing founder-led brands for sponsoring today's episode. There's a great discount code for each of these too. First up, thank you to Happy. Happy is an all-natural hemp-derived THC-infused seltzer brand with stunningly good flavors such as blood orange ginger, raspberry honeysuckle, lime wild mint, and mango sweet basil. To find your Happy, visit happyhourdrink.com. That's HAPPI hourdrink.com and enter code LMCC25 for a 25% discount. You can also get Happy at these fine stores: Binny's in Chicago, Top 10 Liquors in Minnesota, in both Total Wine and Fresh Time stores across multiple states. Once again, visit happyhourdrink.com. And next, thank you to Klaus. Klaus is a ready-to-drink infused cocktails brand by legendary famed master mixologist Warren Bobrow. Klaus is a true artisanal functional cannabis beverage. Visit drinkklaus.com/luxury. That's drink, KLAUS.com/luxury, and use code LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout. Once again, use code LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout when you visit drinkklaus.com/luxury. And finally, thank you to Bee's Knees Wellness. They just launched their Beezy Snaps, which are designed with portability, customization, and fun in mind. It's a discreet, alcohol-free way to boost any beverage without the calories, cans, or hangover. Visit beesknees-wellness.com and enter code LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout. Once again, that's beesknees-wellness.com to shop Beezy Snaps, as well as their full collection of hemp-derived tinctures, sleep and wellness gummies, and much more. Enter code LMCC20 for 20% off at checkout when you visit beesknees-wellness.com. And you can also find all of the sponsor links and promo codes in our show notes. Thank you again to our sponsors. Stay tuned for our next and final episode of Season 1 of the Luxury Meets podcast. I can't believe we're almost there. On Beauty, Part 2 with Priya Rao, Executive Editor of The Business of Beauty at The Business of Fashion. This is my conversation with one of the world's top beauty editors as we do a deep dive into trends, brands, wellness, and career journeys. See you next time.